Dunkin' is putting a whole new spin on pumpkin at Dunkin' with our new Pumpkin Cream Cold Brew. Smooth, bold cold brew topped with velvety pumpkin cream cold foam made with cinnamon and nutmeg spices. And there's more pumpkin for you to love, like the delicious fall classic, our Pumpkin Spice Signature Latte. Rich espresso topped with whipped cream, caramel drizzle, and cinnamon sugar. That's how we pumpkin at Dunkin'. Sip into the fall season with the $3 medium Pumpkin Cream Cold Brew or Pumpkin Spice Signature Latte. America runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply. Valid on Pumpkin Spice Signature Latte only in all cold foam cold brew.
You might have noticed a change in your neighborhood lately. Yep, Sprint stores are now T-Mobile stores. Now that Sprint is T-Mobile, you get more coverage, value, and benefits than ever before. We've invested billions to bring our 5G from big cities to small towns across America. And great coverage is just the start. From high-speed mobile hotspot data to weekly deals and giveaways, our customers get tons of great benefits. Head to your new T-Mobile store to learn more.
Qualifying service and capable device required. Coverage not available in some areas. Some uses may require certain plan or features. See T-Mobile.com.
Rob and Akiva need a podcast, and they need your help. Can you make it onto the wheel? Rob and Akiva need a podcast. Yeah, they'll buy or sell your ideas. They'll talk about it till you got it, you feel. Every weekend, better attend. You can guess what will be coming on next. Rob and Akiva need a podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Rob and Akiva need a podcast. Episode number 144, 12 squared. Here today to talk about Rob and Akiva get Trekked, not get Shreked, as some people may have thought coming into this week. And here with the man who's the keeper of Keeves Peeves, please welcome the great host of 3.5 Podcasts, Akiva Winokur.
A lot of people did think it was Rob and Akiva get Shrek, which, you know, I'm excited to get Shrek today, but maybe that's the sequel.
Should we put Rob and Akiva get Shreked on the wheel?
Yes.
Someone call Shut Up
I think
too.
put it on the wheel right now.
Put it on the wheel right now.
It would be the earliest we've
Is
ever.
It 3X?
Are we watching? All right, so maybe we could discuss that in the mailbag. Maybe we watch all the Shreks on 3X. That's
okay.
Good.
But here we are to talk about the franchise that is very near and dear to my heart, but very foreign to Akiva. Star Trek here today on Rob and Akiva Get Trekked. We only just recently recorded this past week the Keeves Peeves with Sasha Joseph going through all of the listener pet peeves. Thought people had a pretty fair reaction.
I thought people liked it. Yeah. I think people, how about this? People agreed with you that they didn't like the peeves, but people liked the episode.
Yeah, we we made the best of what we had to work with. Yeah, I did think of another peeve after we got done that I find it very annoying very hard to rate a hot pretzel by looking at it. You have to buy it and purchase it and eat it before you know if you have a good hot pretzel or a god-awful hot pretzel.
What's the key? Like when you're biting it, like, are you looking for like softness?
I'm looking for it to not be like hard as a rock and stale.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's hard. Like, they should let you. Like, can I just get back there and like pinch it like it was produce?
What if they had like either tongs where you could pinch it, or they had like a sample pretzel, like one sample pretzel.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what they do in the mall. That's how they get you in the mall with the pretzel bites. Pretzel bites are the game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like a good hot pretzel. I can't tell you how many times I've been like, oh, let me get a hot pretzel. Oh, that looks so good. And then you get
how many times? Like, please tell me how many times. I want to
Mike
know how
hasn't
many
even
times.
been introduced yet.
Yeah, at least like 10 or 15 times in my life that I've had a disappointing hot pretzel.
I'm not a big hot pretzel guy.
Yeah?
So I'm surprised there's so much hot pretzels in your life in general.
I love
that's what I'm
a good hot
intrigued
pretzel.
about.
Yeah. Why?
Do you have it with mustard, Rob?
I'll put mustard on a hot pretzel, sure.
Okay, this is the most food talk.
I'll do a lot of food talk. Yeah.
Well, you have to backdoor the food talk through the peeves, right? It's more so like, hey, I had this thought, and this leads into food. That's the only way you can get him talking about it.
It's just that like, I feel like the pizza, for the most part, you could look at pizza and tell if it's going to be good or not.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
A hot pretzel, impossible to tell if it's going to be good or bad by looking at it. It's behind glass. It's in the case. It's like, okay, give it to me, and then you're like, they got me. They got me.
I do think you should have saved this for the hot takeoff.
Yeah, should have saved it for the hot pretzel takeoff. All right. Anyway, all right, let's bring in our great panel here today. They are the captains of the Star Trek post-show recap, among many other podcasts between the two of them. They're also my co-captains for talking about Amazing Race, podcast about Tough as Nails, and much more together among their many accomplishments. Please welcome back to Renap. I want to say, is this for the first time since Jeopardy? Jessica Leese.
Yeah, I'm sure Mike Bloom has been on this podcast much more often than I have, because Mike Bloom is on every podcast all the time. Like all podcasts.
Sometimes he just shows up, Jess.
Yeah, all podcasts are Bloom. But for me, yeah, I have not been over here at Renap for several years. Yes. I think it is at this point.
Jess, have you thrown your hat into the ring to be a potential Jeopardy replacement host?
They won't take my calls for some reason.
Yes.
I think you and LeVar Burton need to like co-host some sort of, I don't know, anti-Jeopardy show, right? Do something subversive of like, if you're not listening to us here, you're going to want to check out our show. Ours is cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Anything with LeVar Burton is automatically cool. I feel like he elevated Jeopardy, but if they're not going to go that way, I can't convince him otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right. So, who knew in 2021 that the Jeopardy gossip was going to be like the new hotness? It'd be like a TMZ of Jeopardy.
Everyone I know is like, "Hey, what do you think of this Jeopardy thing? Since you were a giant loser on the Jeopardy show."
Is that what they say to you?
They say it in a little bit nicer terms.
It's implicit.
Constant reminder, like, "Hey, how'd you do on Jeopardy again?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way, Akiva, do you know that LeVar Burton is part of the Star Trek universe?
Yeah, I think that's one of the ways he's known for. By the way, Jess, you should have said I won the bronze medal.
I did not win the bronze medal, Akiva. I won the silver medal. Thank you very much.
Oh, there we go. So say like that. Then that's not even bad. What do we? You know, that's good. Second place on Jeopardy is. I would frame that
pretty good.
It's first loser.
Yeah,
that's right. Rob.
Yes.
LeVar Burton. Honestly, is like. LeVar Burton's one of those guys who's very famous. I know him from Reading Rainbow, but I also like assume people know him from other things. So yeah, Star Trek, I sort of knew he was on it.
Yeah, well, there was actually an episode of Reading Rainbow, because I agree, my access point to Mr. Burton was indeed through Reading Rainbow, but there was actually an episode where they went behind the scenes of Star Trek.
Ooh.
I remember, and that was actually my first exposure to Star Trek in general, all the way back watching it on public access. It was like, hey, let's take you behind the scenes of this. They sort of like forgone all the reading for that hot second. It's like, let me just go behind the scenes of this TV show that I'm a part of. That's really cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, man, like LeVar Burton, very accomplished in the world of podcasting, musical theater as well. Please welcome in the great Mike Bloom.
Should I use the sound effect latently?
Yeah,
that still work like 20 minutes into the podcast.
Here, play that sound, and then let's play it. Let's play our first game of Akiva. What is this sound? What does it mean? What has just happened when you hear this sound?
All right, play it again, Mike.
Let's do some Star Trek Foley. Here we go.
Okay, I think that like when a guy zaps into a room, that's what happens.
Pretty close. Yeah,
we'll take it. We'll accept it.
The sound effect of someone beaming in via a transporter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's
you would like
correct.
that, Akiva. You would get beamed, right?
Well, if you don't have to walk, yeah, as like a lazy person, that would be great. I'd love to beam myself. Do you think I would get? Yeah, like I've been on mandatory COVID lockdown here for a week. I'd love to like beam somewhere, maybe to like the store, pick up some food, and then beam back, and nobody catch me.
Well, they could just beam the food to you. I mean, I feel like that feels like a lot.
So
more
you could beam
COVID
stuff, not just people.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, and there's a bit of like a philosophical debate about it, because the beaming process essentially requires you to be broken down to the atomic level in one location and then being rebuilt in the other one. And it brings about this idea of, okay, are you really you when you end up getting beamed about? Because, you know,
what do you think, Akiva?
Is it you? Like, so is it a new person every time?
Right.
Yeah, basically, like when you are disassembled molecule by molecule to be like put back together out of energy. I mean, it's not the same molecules there, right?
It's got to be you. It's like if you had a kidney transplant. Now, is that not you anymore? No, it's still you. So it's the same thing. It's just a lot of transplants on a smaller level.
I don't know. There's a little bit of someone else in you at that moment, in my opinion.
Who else is in you?
Okay. Oh, depends on the donor. All right.
Well, we're going to talk about transporters a little bit later on in the episode.
Great.
I thought I'd say we're talking about
kidneys.
Because I'm wearing my Ryza shirt. So if we're talking about things being in other things, I am fully prepared for that.
Can I start with like a general Star Trek question?
Yeah.
How many Star Treks are there? Because like this is called Deep Space Nine. On the site I used,
Did you
'cause I
watch
didn't,
Deep Space 1 through 8 before we got to this episode?
I
Akiva?
didn't watch
Robert, you're supposed to do the odds.
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. I didn't watch Deep Space 1 through 8, but when I searched on like the site I used to find stuff, the first thing that came up was Deep Space 69. So
That's a totally different thing.
yeah,
That's
different.
not canon.
No, I couldn't find season 7, episode 4 of that. But like, how many Star Treks are there? Because there's like the Next Generation.
Mhm.
I assume there's probably just something called like Star Trek with no colon. Like,
Yeah.
how many Star Treks are there?
Well, there are 9 TV series plus 2 more that are going to come out. And then there are, how many movies, Mike? Are there 9 movies?
There are
Plus-
10 movies.
10 movies.
Are they still making the movies, or are they
Oh,
in
it's actually
a
say
hiatus right now?
13 movies if you're counting the 3
Yeah.
J.J. Abrams ones.
I guess we have to.
Yeah, so I mean, we should also say to give a brief introduction here. So basically, the onus of this podcast, the MO, our mission is to essentially convert Akiva into as
5-year
much of a
mission?
star. Yeah, hopefully not that long. I know we go on for long podcasts, but maybe 5-hour mission is to convert Akiva into at least a more well-informed person when it comes to Star Trek, notorious space phobic. Someone who has never checked out the sci-fi franchise, sans that one episode back when Akiva actually used to honor bets that he did during your days on the Seinfeld
Oh, yeah,
podcast
you
together.
Cupid.
I watched.
Yes.
Yeah, I lost the bet and watched a Star Trek episode on the Seinfeld podcast many years ago. By the way, Rob, 3-year anniversary of Renap this week.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Really, last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Star Trek started back in 1966, the product of a man with a mission by the name of Gene Roddenberry. The show only lasted a few years, but it developed such like a fervent fascination among sci-fi fans and built up such, a to-do behind the scenes that, it had gotten canceled a couple times and then got brought back. As Jess said, there were a bunch of movies that were made in the interim. And then in the late 80s, they started making Star Trek The Next Generation, which segued into Deep Space Nine, which segued into Voyager. All those 3 series kind of overlapped with each other. Then fast forward a few years from that, Enterprise, for many reasons, kills Star Trek for a little bit. And then the J.J. Abrams movies in the late 2000s and mid-aughts or mid-2010s were the ones that I think really brought back people's interest. The screenwriter from that, by the name of Alex Kurtzman, is essentially put in charge to reboot Star Trek in general. And then starting in 2017, we get Star Trek Discovery, and that kicks off, as Jess said, 3 current Star Trek series on Paramount Plus and 2 more in the works as well. So Star Trek had a period where it was running for a while, went away, and now it's back in fashion, if it ever was.
Okay. Does that all make sense, Akiva?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm writing this down, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's going to be a test later.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm excited. I'm
In
gonna
addition to that, we also watched an episode of Star Trek here for this podcast that we will talk about. We'll be talking about a episode of Jess's favorite, Deep Space Nine, later on in this podcast. Season 7, episode 4, Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite.
baseball episode.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Jess and I were debating between a couple of instances, and we're like, okay, first off, we know that Kiva's watched bad Star Trek, so we don't want to like submit him to that because we don't want him to gain this reputation that like Star Trek is just a show that puts out these goofy bad episodes. So we think, okay, let's give him a classic good one, or let's give what I would call the Kiviest episode of Star Trek in history, a baseball episode. And so after consulting with Rob, I think we decided, look, again, if the mission of this podcast is to bring Akiva into the fold, let's play to his tastes a little bit, right? Let's meet him halfway. And so in that regard, I would say Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite is not your typical episode of Star Trek, but I think it is the one most suited to Akiva's whims.
You like that, Akiva?
Yeah, I like when people suit things to my whims, yes.
Yes. The other episode that Mike was suggesting was The Trouble with Tribbles. Do you know what a tribble is, Akiva?
No, I don't. Tribble.
Mm-hmm.
Joey? No, I don't know. I've never heard of it.
What do you think they might be that they would be troubling?
A tribble sounds like it's probably like a foreign alien they've never met before, and they like seem like they're good guys, but at the end they're bad guys.
Yeah, I mean, in a manner of speaking, less bad guys and more so nuisances. Tribbles are small, ball-like, hairy creatures that can essentially reproduce instantaneously. And basically the episode, The Trouble with Tribbles, is that the Enterprise, the original Enterprise, found them, didn't know what they were, to your point, you were correct on that, took them into the ship, they proceeded to, just pop off all over the place and really beleaguer everyone on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
If they're born pregnant, apparently,
Mm-hmm.
and then they just
Yeah.
they just reproduce
They're
constantly.
Like, little hairballs that and then and people really liked it because then like the Star Trek ship was just like completely filled with all of these like little hairballs.
The Tribbles.
Yep.
Mhm.
What if I became like the world's biggest Star Trek fan? Because I feel like I'm so behind in media after sort of taking the summer off. Imagine if I was like, all right, there's probably like 1,000 Star Trek episodes at this point. I'd have to like,
Close to it, yeah.
I'd have to like really, that's a serious binge.
Yeah,
Wonder if
I'm
anyone's
not
ever done
sure
that
you
binge.
I'm not sure you could become the world's biggest Star Trek fan at this point, Kiva. You have too much competition, and the people that get into this, they get into it.
I
See,
don't know,
she's trying to
Jess.
challenge me. She's trying
Yeah.
to trick me.
I mean, Akiva got way into Among Us at one point, and
It's
then
true.
just played it
Biathlon.
like 24/7. And then like he was like people like bullied him for being bad at Among Us, and then he just like spent every waking hour for like a month or two just like watching the YouTube videos so that he could bully people who weren't good at Among Us.
That's true. I did look. I played in Puya's game on Sunday,
Yeah.
and it tells you how many hours you've played on the Among Us game, and we're at like 600 hours.
Mhm.
Okay.
So it's like
So
that's a lot of hours.
So
Yeah.
listen, Star Trek episodes, the original series tends to run about 50 to 55 minutes. Everything else tends to run about like your typical 42 to 45. So actually, if you equate it, that would be a pretty fair dent into the entire canon of Star Trek if you just apply that in a different direction.
And Akiva, if you look at it this way, that Among Us happens like in space on a starship, so you already are sort of like space adjacent as a fan.
I was trying to think if I ever watched, because I wasn't into Star Trek, Star Wars,
Yeah.
even Lost in Space. I was like, nah, not for me.
Why
was
would
even a
Lost in
Nickelodeon-
Space be the one that's like the more interesting one?
I don't know. It was like
the
they were pushing
60s
it a lot
show or
on.
the Matt LeBlanc reboot of Lost
Oh
in Space?
God!
What was like the Nickelodeon space show? It was only in a couple years.
You're thinking of Space Cases.
Space Cases.
Which
See,
is
that I
essentially
tried.
the Nickelodeon
Yeah.
version of actually a Star Trek series, Star Trek Voyager. They tried to do like a teenage version of it called Space Cases.
Yeah, I want to be as low down as possible. That's why I like the Sequest
Check
DSP.
Lower Decks.
That was as far as way. Lower Decks.
Mhm.
What's that? Is that like Star Trek in hell? Like,
I
where is
mean,
that?
There certainly are people that act that way.
That's
so-
not connected to Below Deck. That's not a Star Trek show, right?
Below Deck is a
actually, no,
reality
yeah.
show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, no, it's the only Bravo Star Trek series. It's really odd.
Okay.
It's like a reality series aboard a starship. I mean, it's only one of a couple animated series. Actually, it should say it's not. I think we are ignoring the Star Trek the animated series, which came out.
Yes.
In
No,
the
I
70s.
counted it in my count, Mike.
Oh, so I think it's it's much bereaved. They randomly decided after the success of the original series to bring back most of the cast and just do a bunch of cartoons. And then after all these years, they finally brought that idea back. It's very Rick and Morty meets Star Trek. It might be, and I say this in a very good way, the most self-serving piece of pop culture I have ever seen in my life. You cannot throw a stone without experiencing some sort of Star Trek reference. So I think, Akiva, that's if you want to achieve your mastery, I think that's the final level, is watching an episode of Star Trek Lower Decks and being able to be like, I understood that reference.
Okay. All right. Challenge maybe accepted. We'll see.
All right. So, Mike and Jess, now that we've sort of set the table here for setting the expectations for Akiva and the listeners, what are we going to do first?
We should probably talk about the episode that you watched, I think, because I think that's going to be a good jumping off point from assuming a lot of questions that Akiva has. So as mentioned before, we watched Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 7, Episode 4, Take Me Out to the Holosuite. It's an interesting episode, Akiva, insofar as not only does it really not have much to do with, going on space adventures, doesn't really have much to do with Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Deep Space Nine is more so known as like one of the first serialized Star Trek series out there. There was this ongoing plot about a war and, an oncoming destruction from aliens from another quadrant. And in this one, in the middle of it all, they took a break for an episode and say, let's play a baseball game in the Holosuite. So you are really experiencing like something that is very far removed from a lot of things Star Trek, but again, something that would appeal to you.
Yeah, the thing that is wild about this episode is that the whole rest of this season is really about like the psychological after effects of war, and like we're in the middle, we're in the trenches, and we have to make hard decisions about life and death, and it affects us, and this is a seemingly impossible to beat opponent, but we're just going to stop down every so often. We're going to play some baseball, or we're going to go into the 1960s bar that is also hosted on the station. And they just kind of, it's weird that they can compartmentalize like that. I've always thought that.
Now, Akiva, did you get any sort of a sense of what Deep Space Nine is from this episode? Like, if you had to like imagine, like, what is the rest of the show about from watching this episode? Were you able to piece that together?
All right, here's my impression. What show did we watch last time? What was it? The same series? I don't think so.
You watched the episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Okay,
Cupid.
And that's like the most famous one, The Next
Yes.
Generation.
Yes.
Okay. So I think it's basically like we're in space, we're in the future, like a few hundred years in the future, and it's like a space station where people come and go. It's like I don't know if they're like I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's like Grand Central Station in space.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's like, I don't know what the purpose is, but I know like they're in space. A lot of like people come aboard and visit them. And sometimes they're good guys. Sometimes they're bad guys. I don't see a lot of fighting. I thought there would be more like shooting. I guess that's Star Wars.
But there is
Like,
a war going on. Yeah.
There is a war. The war is not really like a big part of it. And then there's like humans. And then there's like the humans, like ostensibly humans, but they have like big ears and a lot of makeup that probably takes like many hours in like makeup every day.
Yep.
And then I don't know like their goal. I don't know why they're there. I don't know like the lead character that we saw, Cisco, today. Like I don't know what did he do? He seems to be like the big boss in charge, but it's not clear to me like what he does.
Right. So Deep Space Nine is what's known as a starbase, which is essentially just sort of like a hub for Starfleet, which is, what these people are all representing. They're all part of Starfleet, which is sort
Akiva, it's like a rest stop in space.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically like it's a nicely
You can get
gas station.
Yeah, you can get your ship fixed.
Because the big point of the series, and we find this out in the first episode of Deep Space Nine, is like this starbase, which was formerly recovered from a race called the Cardassians, which are this like brutal organization of like kind of lizard-looking people that had previously used it for their own nefarious purposes. Essentially gets taken over by Starfleet to manage, and it happens to be right next to this big-ass wormhole to a brand new part of the galaxy. And so they're like, oh, okay, this is hot territory. We've got to kind of squat on this. And that's what kind of Deep Space Nine is all about. And due to their proximity to the wormhole, they're involved really a lot in the war efforts. But pretty much it's about the upkeep of the station, which earns some derision from fans. With Star Trek, I'm assuming you assume, Akiva, that it's usually about like going out there and exploring space.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It got to the point where they eventually got their own ship to go out into space sometimes because people were getting so angry about them just staying put the entire time.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think a piece of this that is missing, I mean, Mike, I don't know why I'm even on this podcast because you're giving such comprehensive descriptions of everything. I think I was kind of invited as a courtesy. But I'm going to add that when they started the show, it was like the premise of it was they were going to send Captain Sisko out to the middle of nowhere place to manage this space station that didn't really matter to anybody. And then the wormhole opens and suddenly it's like the hot place. And then on the other side of the wormhole, there are bad guys and the bad guys come in and we are now at war with the bad guys. That's the 5
And
second.
do the bad guys have a name, Jess?
Well, there's we have on
They
the,
have many
on our,
names.
there are a couple of different bad guys. We have this kind of loosely federated group called the Dominion. And
Ooh, that was another thing I used to be obsessed with. Rob, remember that?
The Dominion?
No, there was like a board game that I played like I was like the person who played like the fourth most one year. In like
I don't
2017 or
recall
something.
this.
They talked about it on Seinfeld. Well, yeah, I was like obsessed with this board game and I played it all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like 20 games a day.
a board game.
Yeah, so
how do you find people to play a game with you 20 times a day?
Well, it was like online. You could just it was go and like
Should we
play.
put that
And
on the wheel? Akiva plays Dominion.
Was this
I had to quit.
pre-pandemic?
It was pre-pandemic. Well, it's funny because it seems unthinkable. A year and a half after like the absolute apex of the pandemic, But like all my family did when, you couldn't leave the house for those like month or 2 months, however long it was. We played board games. Like we just played, and we have not played a board game since. But like it would just be like Tuesday afternoon, and I would walk into like the living room, and people would be playing board game. I think we board gamed out, but yeah, that's all I played. I had to go cold turkey because I think I played 3,000 games. Each game takes like 15 minutes in a year, and I had to like I had to cut it out. But yeah. Dominion.
Okay, yes. So just
so the Dominions is one of them, Jess. Yes. And who are the other ones?
Yeah, so there's the Dominion, and they're kind of made up of, there's like 3 different species. You have these sort of genetically created super soldiers that are enslaved by these other people, and then above them is like a whole other level of hierarchy. And you meet a character in this episode called Odo, who sort of looks like he's made out of clay, and he's a shapeshifter. And over the course of the series, you find out that Odo thought he was the only one of his kind for a really long time, and then he finds out that his people are the people that are really in charge of the Dominion.
Yeah.
And they live in a lake.
Is there a big bad?
There's a couple of big bads. On the Cardassian side, you have this guy, Gul Dukat, who is kind of in charge of the Cardassians, and he's sort of a fascist totalitarian figure. And then eventually the Cardassians join the Dominion. There was a great parody Gul Dukat account where he was basically just taking current events and like tweeting them with a DS9 spin on them. And it was uncomfortably close to home because it was like just things that people believe in the current universe with a sort of quasi-fascist slant. They translated very well into things Gul Dukat might say. So yeah, they have him, and then there's Bajor, which was the planet that the Cardassians occupied for many years. And there is a religious leader who kind of runs things on Bajor called Kai Wynn, and she's sort of a like evil demagogue as well. So there's a few different big bads that are all kind of working together at this point and sometimes at odds with each other.
You hooked yet, Akiva?
Yeah, and who are the Vulcans? Because this episode, the bad guy's a Vulcan.
Ah, the Vulcans. Vulcans are classic. Vulcans are like the first species you ever meet in Star Trek in the 60s. Akiva, do you know who Spock is?
Yeah, I've heard of Spock. Spock is like the wise, all-knowing guy.
Yes, Spock is a Vulcan.
Yeah,
but I thought Vulcans are bad.
They're not bad.
Only
They're
in this
different.
episode, yeah.
This episode, this guy's like a real douche. No offense.
Oh, yeah. In this episode, this guy's a total douche. And Vulcans kind of are douches because they are ruled by logic, and they really have very little empathy for other people. And so what happens often is that the Vulcan has no patience for anybody's emotional outbursts and will kind of occasionally, I'm sure you've met people like this who sort of believe emotional outbursts to be a sign of weakness. And that's kind of the Vulcan way. And Spock had a lot of trouble because Spock was half human. And so he would get more emotional than other Vulcans. But anyway, Vulcan was the first planet to make contact with Earth. And the rules are that if your species achieves warp speed, if they can travel faster than light, then the Federation of Planets finds you and makes contact. But if you are pre-warp, that is, if you don't know how to go faster than light speed, they don't mess with you until you do. So the idea is Earth figured that out, and then Vulcan showed up to greet them and welcome them, and they've been allies ever since. But Vulcans are also douches, and on a personal level, it's hard to make friendships.
Is it a Locke versus Jack thing? Hashtag down the hatch. Like, is it like a man of science, man of faith thing?
Yeah, a little bit. Though I would say that obviously those two guys were more emotionally charged in their way, whereas this is like emotional charge versus logical charge. This is more so like someone who looks down on you, being like, you do. I don't want to worry about your things. You trifle with things that I don't even care about. Not to mention that, as are mentioned in this episode, Vulcans tend to also be a lot stronger than other people. So they really feel themselves sort of like the master race. And if you're talking about evil Vulcans, those sort of exist in the form of what are known as Romulans. Romulans and Vulcans, once upon a time, they look very similar. They used to live on the same planet, but there was a civil war where there was fundamental disagreements. The Romulans took off and sort of formed their own cabal. And then meanwhile, the Vulcans were like, no, we're just going to hang out here. We're going to be, logicians. We're going to feel like our S doesn't stink. And that's sort of the attitude that you bring in here is like, yes, they're allies, but they're not exactly friends.
Right.
So, Akiva, does this all make sense yet?
I mean, it sort of. And like, does Earth ever come into play? Do we ever like go to Earth
Yeah,
for
they
an
go to Earth
episode?
sometimes.
Oh, yeah, they go to Earth all the time.
Like,
Mostly
is the
just San
baseball
Francisco.
game?
Yeah.
Is the baseball game on Earth?
No.
The baseball game is in the Hollow Suite. And so, Akiva, it's like an immersive video game. They go on Deep Space Nine, they go to the bar, which is owned by Quark, and they pay Quark to rent the Hollow Suite, which is like the video game environment. And you go in, and it's the same. They did this on the Next Generation episode that you watched as well. You go in and you put your program in, and then all of a sudden you're in that environment. Like you're at the baseball field, and you play inside the Hollow Suite, but it feels like you're at the baseball field.
Now, you said pay. Like, what's the denomination? What currency are we using here?
Star Trek universe is mostly currency free. Like everything
cash free. Okay.
Yeah,
Hold on.
I'm going
Credit card.
to explain it.
No, I'm telling Akiva to hold on.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, don't like empty out your pockets at this moment and say, take me to space, baby.
Mm-hmm.
No, they are, they're post currency. So it's like everything you need, you can get. And it's not like there's no scarcity, post scarcity. That's what I'm thinking of. Everything you need, you can get. And so you don't need to pay for things, but there are a couple of species that still really cling very solidly to the idea of, having money. And so the owner of Quark's bar, is a Ferengi, and the Ferengi feel very strongly like their whole society is ruled by capitalism. And you find out like they're kind of a problematic people for a number of reasons, but he's the only guy on the ship that you'd actually have to pay for anything. And there's a couple of little shops, and you have this currency that they use called Latinum.
But
and so you would
this
pay
guy
him.
gets paid, Jess, and then but money has no use. So I'm not sure what this guy's long-term plan
As
is.
used to him.
Yeah,
okay.
has used to him, and he provides a service. That it's not a service you need, but it might be a service you want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can go into the holodeck or the Hollow Suite, and you can basically do like any program that you want. There's a lot of episodes where that they are doing like different stories in the holodeck.
Yeah, the thing you might be shocked about is that they're really obsessed with 20th century Earth. Like they end up going to a lot of
all the time.
Hence this episode, right? Because you think like, okay, we're in this episode takes place in the 2300s or 2400s, and you're like, why do they still like baseball, right? Obviously, the impetus of this episode is like, we don't know anything about baseball. We're from hundreds of years in the future. To Jess's point, characters are obsessed with 20th century things. There's some characters like on Star Trek Enterprise. There's obsessions with like cars. Jean-Luc Picard from The Next Generation loves horseback riding. It would be like if we were obsessed with something from the 1600s.
Is
I'm not
horseback riding something that is ubiquitous in 20th century culture?
I think the better analog here would be that Picard likes this program called Dixon Hill.
Yeah, detective stories.
Yeah, he likes hard-boiled 1930s detective novels, and he goes and acts them out. It would be, I mean, Mike, we do have those people that are obsessed with life in the 1600s, but it would be like if everybody in Star Trek was a Ren Fair geek, but for our stuff.
Yeah. Though, to be fair, going back to the point I made before, I do feel like horseback riding is a bit antiquated. No offense to those equestrians out there, but like we have cars, right?
Yeah, but not the beginning of the 20th century. Like maybe the early 20th century people.
Maybe.
Well, what's going on Earth at this point?
Well, Earth
Pretty
is
much
the
nothing.
headquarters.
Yeah.
It's the headquarters of the Federation. You have Starfleet Academy is on Earth. Somehow they managed to, in a very short period of time, managed to kind of insinuate themselves into being the sort of diplomatic capital of all the planets.
Yeah.
But that's about everything that goes on there. Sisko's father owns a restaurant on Earth, and he cooks real food instead of like replicated food. So that's a thing.
That's the thing.
Oh, the food on the ship is not real.
Yeah, you just order stuff and it makes it up out of like a 3D printer of food.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like mana.
Yeah. Kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can get like whatever flavor you want. You can order a cup of coffee and it like materializes it in front of you.
Yeah.
You might have noticed a change in your neighborhood lately. Yep, Sprint stores are now T-Mobile stores. Now that Sprint is T-Mobile, you get more coverage, value, and benefits than ever before. We've invested billions to bring our 5G from big cities to small towns across America. And great coverage is just the start. From high-speed mobile hotspot data to weekly deals and giveaways, our customers get tons of great benefits. Head to your new T-Mobile store to learn more.
Qualifying service and capable device required. Coverage not available in some areas. Some uses may require certain plan or features. See T-Mobile.com.
Dunkin' is putting a whole new spin on pumpkin at Dunkin' with our new Pumpkin Cream Cold Brew. Smooth, bold cold brew topped with velvety pumpkin cream cold foam made with cinnamon and nutmeg spices. And there's more pumpkin for you to love, like the delicious fall classic, our Pumpkin Spice Signature Latte. Rich espresso topped with whipped cream, caramel drizzle, and cinnamon sugar. That's how we pumpkin at Dunkin'. Sip into the fall season with the $3 medium Pumpkin Cream Cold Brew or Pumpkin Spice Signature Latte. America runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply. Valid on Pumpkin Spice Signature Latte only in all cold foam cold brew.
Enviar nota de voz al group chat. Buenos días. ¿Quieren desayuno de McDonald's?
Guide dice, eres la mejor. Un sausage McMuffin, please. Laura dice, sí, sausage McGriddles para mí. Ale dice, ya comí, pero me traes un hash browns, love you.
Mi colega favorita, Jill. Llévate todos tus favoritos de desayuno como un sausage McMuffin por unos pocos dólares, solo en el $1, $2, $3 menú de McDonald's. Precios y participación pueden variar, no puede ser combinado con un combo meal.
Now, let me ask a question about so Quark. That he sort of runs like the CD Hollow Suite there, and sometimes people come in, Akiva. They don't really talk about this too much, but sometimes people come in and they run like dirty programs on the in the Hollow Suite. Is it established in the canon? Is it cheating if it's on the Hollow Suite?
Oh, that's a good question.
They never establish it as cheating, but there is an episode where there are some really icky ethical considerations that come up where somebody tries to order a Holosuite program featuring a real human being that does not consent to it.
Oh, and that features actually the beloved LeVar Burton is actually core to that.
Yes.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
Yes.
There's one in TNG and that one's upsetting enough. But then there's one where Quark tries to build a program for a dude and she finds out and he gets in a lot of trouble for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of deep fakes. They could just call that episode Deep Fake 9.
Just, could you explain to Akiva that Akiva has some bad news about baseball? I'm sure you watch this episode and think like, oh, baseball must be the international and interspecies pastime. Everybody must love baseball. But baseball is actually going to meet a tragic end in the Deep Space Nine Star Trek universe.
So baseball is like extinct?
Very extinct.
Pretty much.
Honestly, I'm fine. After the last few weeks, I think that's what we're like. Imagine right now, Rob, if like Major League Baseball is like, you know what? We had a good run.
Yeah.
It's the third century. We've done all that we need to do. We got a pitcher who's the best hitter. It's the world's upside down.
The Field of Dreams game. That's it.
We did the field. Like this was a success. Like at this point, we can control and like, and by the way, the Yankees will not be able to win the World Series this year. The Mets season, we're out of our misery. I would be cheering the street. I'd be thrilled. I hope baseball gets put at gets canceled today.
Well, evidently, according to the Star Trek wiki, the sport of baseball, the final World Series was played in 2042. So we got another good 20 years of this, which is really weird because we're also going to be getting into some pretty heavy wars, and apparently baseball still goes on until after that.
I mean, listen, that's Deep Space Nine in a nutshell, though, as you just said, right? Heavy wars going
wars
on,
in baseball.
but baseball survives no matter what. I mean, listen, I'm sure it was also a very sympathetic episode to watch, Akiva and Rob, as Mets fans, right? You probably cheer for the one run they score, much like the Niners do at the end of this episode.
Yeah, losing 10-1 we're used to.
Yeah, Mets fans love manufactured victories.
Well, they didn't strand a lot of runners on base, so that was most of the team was injured after the first game. That was very familiar.
Yeah,
like after the first practice, it was like everyone's on the DL and people need surgery, basically.
Yeah. Do we know if Ben Sisko named his son Jake after the greatest pitcher of the 21st century, Jake DeGrom? Was that canon?
I think that's canon. Yes.
Yeah.
What about Doug Sisko, the X-Men?
Well, I don't think he named his last name. I think he did his last name was Schwartz and changed it to Sisko.
The interesting thing about Bajorans, remember, is that their first name is their last name and their last name is their first. So if he was Bajoran, he could have done that.
Maybe. Okay. Akiva, you feel like you have a good understanding of Deep Space Nine?
Yeah, I mean, from the show, I have some notes from the show.
Yeah, give us your
From
notes.
the
Give us your
episode.
rundown here.
So the Vulcan guy's very racist against humans. He like hates humans.
Yeah, just for people that didn't watch the episode, like the episode starts off and there is a Vulcan character. He has like a Vulcan ship and he's like really very rude to Captain Sisko. And he's like, I want this. And I'm like, oh, I thought that at the end of the scene they're going to be like, like my buddy, like he was just like breaking his you-know-what. But no, there really is a rivalry. And this guy, I guess, feels like that, Vulcans rule and humans drool.
Yeah, breaking his baseballs. But yeah, and basically we heard this stems back, right? They went to Starfleet Academy together, essentially part of like the same class. And since he bested him in that wrestling match, it's all that he could talk about. And he's been living rent-free in Benjamin Sisko's head all these years after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think it's fair to say that I don't find it terribly logical to spend great amounts of time making sure that all the people in my orbit understand that I'm superior to them and needle them into getting upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like you can tell that something under Solok's logical exterior, there beats a deep, like insecure heart.
Yeah. Solok would have been really annoying on Twitter. We would have Twitter threads going on and like, all right, we get it.
Would he have been canceled? Would he have been like,
certainly, yeah.
Human food has one spice, and that everyone would have been like, no, get out of here.
Hashtag Solok is over party is already trending hundreds of years before he's come back.
Yeah. Just like all about how the Vulcans are superior race to the humans, and they're stronger, and the humans are emotional.
He would have gotten his account blocked for that. Like, I feel like that kind of racist rhetoric really, there's no place for it on Twitter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They would have been, by the way, another weird thing is like, I don't know the strategy of like, we need to get better at baseball next 2 weeks. Let's just spend almost all of the time learning the rules. That's not the direction I would have gone. Because they're like learning what the infield fly rule is, which like there's players in the majors who probably don't know the infield fly rule and they're fine. It's like, it's okay. And like that's really what they're focusing on, and not like catching the ball, throwing the ball, and hitting the ball, which probably would have been my strategy. Maybe that's why they lost 10-1. He's a bad manager.
Why aren't they watching any baseball? Why are
That's
they
a
trying to
good
learn
point.
it from a book? I mean, I could recommend some good books about it, but I think you learn more watching it.
Mm-hmm.
You think they didn't have the rights?
To what base? Yeah, you think Major League Baseball, right? You're not allowed to tape games. Maybe that carries across centuries.
That's what I'm saying. Like even 400 years later, you hear that this is of Major League Baseball. Any attempts to rebroadcast it, they would be like, "Ooh, we're going to go to space jail if we try and tape this game and show it in the Vulcan theater."
I will say that I agree with you because spoiler alert, like the big culminating climax of the one run they score is completely by accident. So any sort of strategy that they've gleaned over all of this like meticulous book learning kind of gets thrown out the window. I mean, listen, I am far from the most knowledgeable person, but I have the basic understandings of baseball. I don't think I need to learn what a fancy Dan is or any of like I don't need to be a walking dictionary of baseball after 2 weeks.
They talk about a fancy Dan and they said, oh, you're making this up. I'm like, yeah, that's no such thing. Akiva, have you ever heard the term fancy Dan before?
No, I've watched baseball my whole life, watched thousands of games of baseball. I've never heard of it. And the second thing that comes up is Star Trek when you Google Fancy Dan.
It's possible they invent this in like 2030.
Yeah, Fancy Dan hasn't happened yet. Buck Bokai is
no,
the
you know
first
what?
Fancy
I
Dan.
actually think it is made up because even now I see the first thing is Fancy Dan. So yeah, I don't think it's a real thing.
Now, is it something, though, that has, like, reverse manifested itself? Well, now you have, like, yes announcers being like, look at that Fancy Dan showing off his moves.
Uh-huh. Do you think Dan Uglo was Fancy Dan? Famous, terrible second baseman with 3 errors in an All-Star game
Daniel
once?
Murphy, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it is a Star Wars only thing, because I only see Star Wars stuff. Star Trek.
Yes.
There's a big difference.
For everybody, of course, who is just listening to the podcast and can't see our Zoom call, Jess is wearing a Deep Space Niners T-shirt.
Oh. Is that your favorite baseball team, Jess?
I don't really have a favorite baseball team, but if I did, I guess it would probably be this one.
Yeah.
I found an article on baseballprospectus.com which breaks down the Deep Space Niners like player by player.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Yeah, who's the MVP here? Is it Jake Sisko?
Well, it gives like
he went 9 innings.
It gives like a full like scouting report really on all of them. Like Nog is 4'11", 100 pounds. Why is he the catcher? Doesn't really make that much sense.
Good
saying.
question. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They allowed 14 hits, committed 4 errors. It has like a whole, breakdown of the box score and stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jake Sisko's ERA has to be terrible if he's given up 10 runs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of them were unearned, though, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
There've been a lot of unearned runs.
He's probably okay.
And like, really, if the other team is like a super creature, they should have lost like 50,000 to nothing, right?
Yeah. I mean, they get most of the damage in the first inning. They get 4 runs and then basically give up like 1 run an inning. So that's not too bad.
The whole game, so they're down 10-0. They score a run on a bunt, and that's like the crowning moment and gets like slow motion. It's very exciting.
Yes.
It's really this whole game is an ode to participation trophies. Like they're so like first the guy is not good enough
24th century millennials.
Yeah, it's true. Like the guy's not good enough to make the team, but they put him on it anyway. And
they Rudy him.
Yeah, they Rudy him, but also like he doesn't make the team, and the chief is like viewed as this like evil guy for cutting him from the team. Not the Chief O'Brien, the Sisko.
Captain Sisko.
Captain Sisko is like, oh my God, like this manager is so mean. He doesn't like this guy is the worst player ever, and why would he keep him? And also, like, were they only going to play with 8 players? I'm not so sure. Like, they didn't seem to have any backup, so I don't know what his plan was.
That is a good point about there's no other Federation officers on Deep Space Nine they could have recruited to the team. Like, it's like, no, these are the series regulars. This is it.
Do they have to be officers? Could we go to the lower decks for this?
Well, no, right? Because we like recruit Lita. Who is just like a side piece. She's the wife of Rom.
She works in the bar.
Yeah, and they just said like, hey, bar wench, come here and be on our baseball team.
Yeah, well, she did do a fancy dance.
That's true.
That was Ezri Dax, I thought.
Oh yeah, it is
sorry,
Ezri Dax.
sorry.
She's the one that reads about it and knows what it is.
My bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and they bring in like Sisko's girlfriend too. So it sure seems like they could have gone, there's hundreds of crew members on this station. They could have put out the call a little bit more widely.
He's a terrible manager. Pick the bad team. And then like they basically go on strike until he puts the bad player back on the team.
Right.
And then they celebrate a 10-1 victory with like beers afterwards. Like they just won the World Series. Like, guys, you got smoked. The other team is celebrating. You guys should be taking, infield practice for next game and practicing to try and beat them next time.
Yeah, but they're mostly doing that to upset Solak.
Yeah,
and it has it achieves its intended effect.
Yeah.
Here's the thing I don't understand. Why do they need a live umpire? Is there no umpire built into the game?
This is a great question because I think that people are really calling for it. And Akiva in minor league baseball that they have machines calling balls and strikes. Sisko seems like totally against this idea when I think Odo suggests like, well, why not have just like the simulation do it? It's like, no. We need a real umpire calling the balls and strikes. Now, ironically, he's also going to get kicked out of the game. But does that mean that baseball will not end up going with machine umpires at some point?
That seems to be what they're predicting. But I think in this version of the universe, I do think in like 10 years, there will be machine umpires probably.
It's interesting, though, because I think Odo could have been an incredible asset on the team, considering that he is a shapeshifter. Like, he could just shapeshift into like a 10-story brick wall and have the ball hit it and he could catch it. Like he seems nearly unstoppable.
I mean, or if he's going to slide into home plate, he can just turn into a liquid and go right under the feet of the...
He could shapeshift into Mike Trout.
Well, he's not that good at shapeshifting into people. Like that's kind of his problem.
He has problems with the face in particular. That's why he sort of looks like he got a bunch of silly putty smeared over his face and can't get it off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he didn't get lessons because he was, orphaned from his giant lake of friends. He looks like the T-1000, basically.
Yeah, Akiva, he's actually slime and he sleeps in a bucket.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And his people are a giant lake and he got separated from the lake. So the rest of them are much better at shapeshifting.
Do they like live on a lake, Jess?
No,
or
they are a lake.
They are a lake.
They are a lake.
Yes.
And this show is like really popular.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole reason they had Odo was because it was 1993 and they had just perfected that Terminator 2 effect of like the liquid turning into the person. And they're like, well, what else could we do with this? Let's put it in Star Trek. That's the whole reason Odo exists.
Now, are you guys like messing with me on some of this stuff?
No, not yet.
No, not yet.
I'll
I
mess
thought
with
some
you
of this
later.
some of this stuff seems fake.
No, this is all real.
Okay, like the Kardashian, I think is fake.
No, they are legitimately named Cardassians.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And you know, I guess to even show more timely nature, they nicknamed them the Cardis sometimes.
Oh. Okay, so my other questions were like the message is the best thing to have in baseball is courage. If you have courage, like you'll win every game.
Yeah. I think that Cisco was just vamping there. I think that was almost like a parody of like baseball speeches in movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very sappy, very schmaltzy. And also, what anthem do they play? They like stand for the national anthem.
Is that the
There's a lot of
Federation
humans.
anthem?
I would imagine
I think so. Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of humans there, ostensibly from Earth. Like they couldn't play some sort of, you know.
Also, my big quibble, not tribble, with this episode is that they're in the holosuite. They could have been playing in the Field of Dreams Park, like Old Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park, any classic baseball stadium, and they're just like out in like some like random
Little League field. Yeah.
like
basically.
I mean, it does look quite a bit like the field that they have in Cooperstown where they used to play all those amazing games.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's not a stretch.
I think
but
it's some like local LA college
obviously,
field.
yeah.
It's Pepperdine, I think.
Right.
They film everything at Pepperdine.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I agree. There's they could have played the game in Wrigley Field or something, and they chose they chose. But there was like
maybe by the time Cisco came around, all that stuff got torn down, and now we just have these like rinky-dink places to play baseball. Maybe baseball was on its way out when Cisco became so fascinated with it.
I mean, it was. That is exactly what happened. Like he's the only person he knows who's into baseball.
who are the fans in the stands that get zapped out of there? Are they real people or are they sort of holograms?
They're holograms. So again, Cisco's fine with the fake audience because luckily they don't need to discern between their pretzel tastes. But fake umpire, that's where you draw the line.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and they didn't want to pay all those day players for more than, I guess, like 20 minutes. So they just got them out of there.
It's like this episode's getting very expensive. Mm-hmm. We need to ad-lib a line where we kick the fans out of the stadium.
What do you think it was like for Solok's crew when he came to them? All right, everybody, this is like here's what's going on. There's this guy that I've had a like one-sided feud with for about 30 years, okay? He's really into some Earth game that's long extinct called baseball. We're going to learn it. And we're going to practice it every day. We're going to get really good at it. Then we're going to go to his space station, and then we're going to play it against him and just beat him. And like, this seems very illogical, Captain. Why are we doing this? Like, for spite.
Well, you know what it is? Like, Solok really is the Jim Halpert of this episode, right? Like, he is going to such great lengths just to troll Captain Cisco to, like, the expense of his time, his loved one's time, his friend's time, just to purely get back at him or continue this really one-sided feud and to I guess, satiate his own odd whims.
Yeah. Because it's not even like the Vulcans are, like, really, like, baseball fanatics themselves. They just seem to have only learned the game to spite Cisco.
Yeah, it's incredibly petty. And you know, I love a good petty gesture. So I'm kind of about it. Mm-hmm. But it's shocking to me that the most petty thing in all of Star Trek comes from a Vulcan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It seems very illogical.
Very logical. Okay. Is there anything else about this Deep Space Nine episode that Akiva, do you feel like that you have really understand the Star Trek universe now?
There's a lot. I feel like it'll take years of research, but yeah, I have a better picture than I did a few hours ago for sure.
All right. Well, 2 episodes down, 998 to go. I think you'll get there. You'll have your Dominion.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's
but it never ends. Like I'll be catching up, but they'll be like, hey, here's a new series. It's on like CBS. We brought back CBS All Access. You can't find it, but there's a Star Trek series on it.
Yeah, I like that idea. It's like, you know, when they did Bandersnatch on Netflix, right? They say that there are some endings that are like trapped that you can never actually access. Maybe CBS will create a channel like that one day. Like, oh, you can check out, you can check out this new season of this show that you've always wanted to see get brought back, but it's only behind this paywall and network that nobody ever has the ability to log into at any point in time.
That's Netflix Premium Gold.
Yeah. It's on New York One Plus only. That's the only way to watch it. You have to ask Pat Kiernan for the password.
Akiva,
Joke was only for Jess.
Let me. This is a wheel idea. It's a little bit out
Mhm.
there, but Mike and Jess are here, and they podcast about this. Like, could we do a Bandersnatch of Robin Akiva episode? Could we do a podcast episode that's Choose
How
Your
does that work?
Adventure?
Well, we did one.
No,
We did-
I know we did. You Are a Shark, but could we do it where
Which
like
we
the
should also
listeners?
say, really, everything old is new again on Renap, right? Because speaking of Jeopardy, Ken Jennings brought You Are a Shark into the mainstream
Mhm.
in a year after all of us did.
Yeah. So, could we basically could we make a podcast episode where the listeners could choose where there's multiple versions of the podcast?
Yeah, I think that's fun.
I don't know how we would do it. I don't know if the podcast would be us recording all of the different versions.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you would need to do is record it with some sort of audience, and then you would stop down for a few seconds. They all vote, and whoever gets whatever option gets weighed more, that's the path you continue down. Because I don't think we have the technology at the moment to have people determine in their podcast apps which ending they want to listen to.
I'm wondering if it could be where that we're just the podcast is us recording all the pieces, and then somebody would have to make it into the Choose Your Own Adventure, on a website.
We'd have to host it on a website. It's actually not hard to build, but it would just be you'd have to do it in a browser.
Okay,
basically.
All right.
If someone wants to work on that, let me know, because it sounds like a lot of work, but it's a fun idea.
Okay. All right. Well, what's next after Take Me Out to the Holosuite?
Well, let's get Akiva involved in the Star Trek universe. You watched it. Now it's time to become part of it. We figured what we could do next is talk a little bit about if Akiva were to somehow be in the Star Trek universe, much like, what you did when you got dragged and when you became superheroes. Who do we think he would be? What species? I have a quiz that Akiva can take a la Pottermore to figure out where he would be in Starfleet specifically. Akiva, I know you have a shallow knowledge of Star Trek at the moment, but what do you think you would ideally be doing in the future where really you can do anything, eat anything, go see anything?
Is there a guy on this ship who's I feel like he's more the idea guy. He doesn't really have a day-to-day task, but he's sort of just saying it would be more efficient if we did it. He's just throwing out a lot of half-baked ideas and more, not like middle management, but he's I'm a consultant. I'm McKinsey for space.
Yeah.
And I'm pitching
That's
them
kind of
ideas.
like First Officer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, First Officer is basically, often nicknamed number one, is the person behind the position. The captain, of course, if the captain is inconvenienced, the first officer takes over. But usually, they're their go-to, the consigliere of the captain to talk about what to do in every instance.
Number one. Speaking of number one, what's the bathroom situation on Star Trek? Do they not have to use the bathroom anymore in the 24th
We'll
century?
get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that eventually,
Okay, fine.
Akiva. Put a pin in that.
And are there babies on the ship?
Yeah, all the time there's babies.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could, all right.
In
got
fact,
it.
There's actually...
Chief O'Brien, who you saw having the newly minted Scotch gum, actually his wife had a child earlier in the series Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm. Is there a hospital?
Yeah, there's sick bay. The doctor delivers the babies.
There's one doctor, and how many people are on the ship?
A few hundred.
Okay.
But there's several medical officers. There's
Okay.
usually more than one medical officer around, and they might have someone who's trained in midwifery, or they could. Voyager, for example, has instead of a doctor, they have an emergency medical hologram who is just like a computer program.
Like WebMD.
And he does all the He does all
Is
the
there-
doctoring. Yeah.
And are there schools?
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, that's a plot point on Deep Space Nine because it's out in the middle of the boonies. There aren't very many kids. And then Miles O'Brien has a wife who is a botanist, but she doesn't have anything to do either. And she gets so bored that she starts teaching the kids in the school.
The botanist.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
botanist. So they learn a lot about plants. I don't know what else they learn.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Well, I could just hear the sincerity in your voice right now.
No,
Well,
it is interesting, and I'm not. I think it is interesting.
Well,
I didn't think there was school.
maybe what I can do here, Akiva, is I have a quiz right here from
Mhm.
uquiz.com. I'm going to throw some scenarios out to you. It's about 10 questions, and we'll get your answers on it, and we'll see algorithmically speaking, if we'll be able to provide where you reside on the ship. Maybe you'll be first officer. Maybe you'll be a go-with guy. Maybe you're going to be working in the engine room. Maybe you'll be the captain of this ship.
Maybe
Who's
a
to
red
say?
shirt.
Yeah. I don't think Akiva knows what a red shirt is in this
You know
context.
what that is?
Oh, I think they're the guys who always die.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard of that before. I didn't know it was from
Ironically, in
this.
football, that if you're a red shirt, that means that you can't die.
You can't. Well, they don't. Yeah. Well, unless like the Notre Dame coach is like, "Hey, climb this tower." There's, yeah, in football, it's like you skip a year and but you don't. You lose your eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like anonymous people who you know are going to die because they're wearing red shirts and they don't know their names.
Yeah, basically, and it stems from the original series where the team would go on away missions, right? Where they like arrive on a planet, they'd say, something's up, let's beam a team down there to explore. It might not be the same people as when they beamed out, but they're still, look the same. And usually it was the captain, it was Mr. Spock, who was his first officer, his number one. It was usually the doctor, Dr. McCoy, and then it would be like a couple of randos. A couple of featured extras who happen to almost always be wearing red shirts. Surprise, surprise, when blood is shed, guess who you can't see the blood on because they're wearing red shirts? It's them. They're the ones that usually die because they're not the named characters. And so that's where the red shirt trend came from.
Okay.
Yeah, and it used to be like anytime you were watching the show, it'd be like you'd have Kirk and Spock and like Johnson and like I don't know, Bloom. And then it was like, which guys are going to die. And so later on, like Deep Space Nine especially would get smart with this. They'd start showing you the same guys on the away mission for like several different episodes. And they're like in the background. They're kind of like almost NPCs, and they'd be on a bunch of missions. And then when they killed them, you felt like you actually cared.
Wow.
Yeah. So they learned from their mistakes.
Yeah.
Unlike poor Bloom, who ends up, being impaled on some sort of, spike emanating from some alien creature, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I think he got eaten by the Horta.
Yeah, I'm assuming I die in the most embarrassing way possible. Like somehow I'm pooping in a bush or something and like the bush eats me. I'm assuming that's how I die in the Star Trek universe.
Oh yeah,
God, that's very
a
lower
good question of that. We knew we're going to get into like the bathroom situation on the ship, but yeah, that on the away missions, nobody ever needs to hey, is there a bathroom on this planet?
Yeah, it's interesting because it depends on the acceleration of some of these planets that they visit are super primal, like mud huts and everything like that. So yeah, it can really depend on the situation that they're going into. It's also the uniforms are interesting, right? They're usually wearing like not onesies, but very tight fitting uniforms. Mm-hmm. And so I can imagine in general, it is a tough thing to get in and out of when you're really in a bind.
Maybe their food is very binding and you don't need to go to the bathroom as much.
It's a good point.
Like there's less waste.
Maybe they're good flyers, Mike.
Yeah, no, that's true. Exactly. They're sitting still for like 6 hours.
Their
being
food
like,
is very efficient.
Give me the aisle seat or the window seat on the runabout. I'm not going to get up for any portion of time right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Kiva, let me throw some scenarios out to you. And this is multiple choice. So pick whatever best fits you.
Okay.
You've just welcomed an alien diplomat on board, and they're making some rather unusual requests. What do? A, you go along with the requests, but you watch them closely. B, you go along with whatever they say. C, you ask them a little bit about their culture. D, you explain to the diplomat how things are usually done around here. Or E, you inform security immediately.
I think I tell them how things are normally done.
You're not going to be a space Karen and tell them out.
No, I'm not going to be Space Karen. Oh, I like Space Karen though. That's fun.
Well, that's actually the Bajoran leader that Jess mentioned earlier. I believe has been coined the nickname Space Karen by modern day Star Trek fans.
Wow,
I like that.
Yeah, because sometimes these diplomats come in and they have like requests that are just like not on the level with what the Federation wants to do.
All right. You're on your way to deliver urgent medical supplies when you receive a distress signal from a Ferengi trading ship. The Ferengi are, as a reminder, Kiva, as you said, the ostensibly humans with the ears, the very greedy, avaricious types. What do? A, the medical supplies will have to wait. You need to attend to the distress signal. B, you're suspicious of the Ferengi. You scan and hail them before beaming over an away team. C, someone else will have to attend to the Ferengi. The medical supplies are urgent. D, you send an away team to the trading ship and continue with the medical supplies and you'll just come back later. Or E, you send a shuttlecraft forward with the medical supplies and you take on the Ferengi.
I'll do C.
You're basically going to be like, someone else will take care of it. I got vaccines to deliver.
That's right. Do you think are they like, who's not getting vaxxed on this ship?
That's a good question. Well, the interesting thing about vaxing is, if you're talking about the medical situation, nearly every medical malady can be cured with what's known as a hypo spray, which I believe you saw on the show, right? It sort of looked like the like anestoscope or the ear looking thing where the doctor just sort of sticks it into you. You can essentially cure a lot of illnesses almost instantaneously by giving people hypo sprays.
Mm-hmm. Still, probably a lot of people don't want to take it. Like, no, you can't force me to take the hypo spray. My body, my choice.
Exactly.
That hasn't come up yet.
Okay.
Though maybe, I don't know, again, Star Trek likes to tackle timely issues in a futuristic framing. So I would not be surprised if we get like a But My Freedom's medical malady coming up in some sort of future Star Trek episode.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah. All right. You have discovered a mysterious alien artifact in some ruins. What's your first instinct? A, you beam it on board immediately. B, you use the computer library to try to find any reference to any languages around it. C, you scan it for any unknown contaminants. Or D, you try to analyze the chemical components of the artifact so you could date it. And not in a holosuite type of way.
Oh, okay. Is that what people do? They're bringing their dates to the holosuite?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, if you have maybe some sort of like exciting program, sure.
Is the weird guy with the money, is he like watching what's going on in the holosuite? You have privacy?
Privacy.
I think privacy, but I think he also knows, right? It's one of these things of like almost like a video store, like, oh, Mr. Johnson, I've seen you rented Deep Space 69 for the 69th time. I know what you're into.
Yeah. Yeah. What was A? I think I'm going with A.
You beam it on board immediately. Consequences
we'll
be
that.
damned.
We'll do that.
That's a bad idea.
All right. Question 5. It is time for shore leave. What are you beaming down to do? A, wherever other people are going. B, you go to a conference on artificial life forms.
Nerds.
C, actually you stay on board. This is the perfect opportunity.
Staycation.
Exactly. D, Risa, obviously, which I can talk to you about Risa. And then E, somewhere you've never been before.
Everyone's leaving the ship?
It's shore leave, so I'm assuming it's done in shifts. I don't think they ever. I think during shore leave, I don't think they leave boats just unmanned for an entire week.
It's like, that sounds appealing, but also like you don't want to be the guy who like doesn't leave the cruise ship when you're going like, all right, we're in Barbados today, and everyone's like going out, and you're like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah,
what are you doing that
important
for?
point. Risa is like Space Vegas.
Yeah.
Oh, so why are we? Yeah, you're burying the lead, Mike. We're going to Space Vegas.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, Space Vegas. It's very saucy, like covered in sauce. Basically, on Risa, what you do is you have a little token called a Horgon that you put on the table. And as people walk by, if they see a Horgon prominent, they know that you want to engage in what's known as Jamar Haron, which means, you're down to hang in a certain way. So it's sort of like the, if you want to swing, you go to Risa and you have a good time.
I know.
Very saucy.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very saucy.
That's a
All right.
Yeah, I'm the sauciest guy in town.
The master of sauce. All right.
Well, people have been saying I'm buttery more than saucy on. That's what people have been saying.
Have you gotten a lot of feedback on that?
Yeah, I don't know. A couple.
Okay.
I don't think people want to hear me say it again, but I don't think it's as bad as Wet Jumper, but it's not great.
Mm-hmm.
Buttery fit.
I feel like any nickname that's around a liquid, unless you're some sort of swimmer, feels inappropriate.
So you think swimmers, I don't know, a lot of swimmers don't have like wet nicknames. They didn't call like Michael the Fish Phelps or anything like that, but maybe they should have.
Did Michael Phelps have a nickname?
Moist Michael Phelps.
Moist Michael.
Yeah, I don't know if Michael Phelps had a nickname. Maybe he just like even rose above that. I mean, I would say if you're naming states of matter that you want your nickname to be, I would say like solid first, then gas. Like, give me a gassy nickname for a liquid.
Okay, fine. Nitrous Mike.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, call me like I don't know, Boron Bloom. I'd be fine with it.
Where do plasmas fit into all of this?
Mm-hmm. Plasma's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, Michael Phelps' nickname is the Flying Fish, so that just shows how much all of you know.
No, but the fish is out of the water, not wet.
Nobody calls him that.
Wikipedia calls him that.
Yeah.
Well, then it's true.
All right. Akiva.
Yeah, what's next?
I have bad news for you. Imagine you didn't pass the Starfleet Academy entrance exam. You're not going to be in Starfleet right now. What other career could you have pursued? I
can't like call up like, hey, I know someone important. They're going to get me in.
No, nepotism doesn't. Oh, actually, sometimes it does, but oftentimes not. Yeah, there's no grandfathering in.
That's the first thing I went to. It's not a great sign, but yeah. Okay.
Lori Loughlin here.
Exactly.
I can't give 500,000 space bucks to like the rowing coach and he'll put me on the team.
That's it. And see, that's the problem. Exactly. It's a cashless society. So you can't bribe anyone, or you can't make up resumes of like, yeah, Akiva was on the holographic rowing team. And so you have to get a scholarship to Starfleet University.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So would you be a scientific researcher, B, an exolinguist translating alien languages, C, you just take anything that lets you explore the galaxy, D, a diplomat, E, anything that helped protect the Federation, or F, maybe like a starship designer?
Anything that would help the Federation.
Okay.
I'm a team player. There's no I in team. That's what they say. Is there an I in spaceship? Yes, but whatever.
All right. You're on duty when you see a friend slacking off at their station. What do you do? A, you look the other way.
Yeah, that's it. That we're not narcs here on Renap.
Yeah, we're firmly anti-space Karen here on Renap.
Yeah, there's no space Karens.
Isn't that like an entire plot arc on Lower Decks?
Yeah, exactly. Where like everyone sort of they take basically what's known as the Scotty method, named after a character, Montgomery Scott, where he's like, this job will take me 45 minutes. I'm going to say it's an hour so that when I do it in less time, I'm a miracle worker. And so essentially people realize that and then put them on this like hyper strict clock. And that's how I live my life with work ethic ever since. So Star Trek has inspired me in so many ways. All right, Akiva, you're stuck on a planet alone with an officer of another species, so maybe not alone. When your universal translator stops working. The universal translator is a device that allows you, no matter what the species, it translates to your language. So you can communicate with anybody. That has now stopped working, and you can't communicate with this other officer. What do? A, would you try to teach each other a few key words? B, would you just point at things and hope you understand what they're talking about? C, would you do your work separately and just pray the translator kicks in soon again? Or D, would you get a stick and start drawing on the ground?
I'm a very bad drawer, famously. Yeah. So I would do that, but then like only so the person would give up. You know, they'd be like, all right, we'll figure this out later.
Oh, so so you're trying to like play chicken with them of like, I'm going to attempt something and have whoever.
I'm going to try and help, but I know that they're going to like,
they just walk away.
They're going to walk away. They're going to walk away.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Speaking of drawing, I will say, so I went out with my parents the other night with Angela and Asher because it was for my birthday. And my son has like a drawing pad, one of those like, not Etch-a-Sketch, but like Magnadoodle, I think it was called back in the day. Yep. And my mom's like, oh, let me draw you a giraffe. And somehow she thought the giraffe had a long legs and a short neck instead of a long neck and long legs. And so she ends up drawing this actually demented looking horse. Maybe that's why horses were on my brain today, is because it just made me fundamentally think like, how do you get a giraffe wrong?
Yeah, that's the one key feature I feel like with the giraffes, the long neck.
Right? I feel like that's the main thing you would get. So even if Akiva's a bad drawer, I think like he would be able to get a giraffe.
Can you draw a giraffe?
I can't draw. I truly cannot draw anything. Again, you're talking to someone who's
now
like.
I'm interested. Now I kind of feel like we should put like Pictionary on the wheel.
I think you should put some Gartic Phone on there. I know it's more of a visual medium, but that's
Phone.
So Gartic Phone is a game
that's like Dominion.
Exactly. It logged 3,000 hours. It's something that the aforementioned Puya plays, where it's sort of like telephone meets Pictionary, where you play with like a group of people. You're given a phrase. You try to draw that phrase, and then like someone else sees the drawing, tries to figure out what the phrase was from that drawing. Someone then makes a drawing of that phrase. It gets like passed down the line.
Wow.
And you just see how bastardized it ends up becoming.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's very fun, but I think that, suffice it to say, I think Akiva's sort of like the ROM of that team, right? The weak link that's going to get benched.
Let him play.
All right. So Akiva, it's a warp core failure. The engine is failing right now. You have to evacuate engineering right away, but one of your team is too slow.
The warp core failing. Okay.
Yeah. It's basically the warp core is like the main engine of the ship. It's not doing well. You're saying like, get out of there. It's going to blow. One guy's a little too slow on the uptake. What are you going to do? A, do you keep the doors open and pray the engine doesn't explode before they get out? B, seal the one person in. C, run in and carry them, hoping you're fast enough to get that back out in time. And D, ask the captain for orders just to see what they say.
What was B?
Seal them in.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to ask the captain what to do.
All right. Let's see. Then we
I drew a giraffe for you guys.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I just drew on autodraw.com. You can look at it.
No, come on. This was you did this terrible on purpose.
Oh my dear God. It's a long neck.
That is his neck. That's the giraffe's neck.
What the hell is this?
You think I'm like trolling? I truly do not know how to draw. Like, I am incapable. Like, any first grader on earth can draw better than me.
It looks like your giraffe got into a battle with Rocky Balboa. It has like one eye sagging. It has
I don't
no
even know where
ears.
the eye is. I don't even know what this is.
It looks a little like Stewie from Family Guy.
It does kind of. It has a football head. It has two misshapen eyes. It's smiling, saying, of course, its hit giraffe catchphrase, "I'm a giraffe."
I'm a giraffe. Yeah. Yes, that's what giraffes always say.
He did this bad on purpose.
I will call my wife in here and say, "Is this a normal Akiva drawing?" And she will 100% say yes.
Okay.
This is like I could, like, if I had an hour, could I do something better? Sure, but like, with my computer mouse, I'm saying if I had a few minutes to play with this website.
All right.
Or
Do we know what Akiva is yet on this ship?
I got a couple more
this
questions.
Is long.
Okay. All right.
Can we fast forward?
I'm fast forwarding. Don't you worry. Let's talk about some fashion here, Akiva.
Put this into warp speed. Yeah.
Yeah, you could put the I'm a giraffe picture into the show notes. I think people would like.
Okay.
Yeah, make this. If there were like cover photos you could do for podcasts, I think this should definitely be the new one. Make it the cover of the Renap subreddit. I'm personally putting in the petition for.
I'm a giraffe.
All right, Starfleet has sent out an announcement, Akiva. They designed new uniforms. You're a very fashionably minded person. What are you hoping for?
Style icon.
Yeah, you're hoping for something flattering. Are you hoping for something practical and comfortable? Are you hoping for something that uses the latest advances in technology, or something that shows rank and designations clearly?
What's the AC situation aboard?
I think
we don't know,
temperate.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like a sweat wicking, I'm assuming, fabric, right? Like, I don't think anyone gets incredibly hot in Starfleet uniforms.
I want to be comfortable.
All right, practical and comfortable.
Yeah.
I assume that uniform technology has evolved to the point where everything can be temperature controlled. So it's like, if you want to be a little warm, your uniform will respond to that.
No, I don't want to be warm. I want to be very cold.
You want to be cool as a cucumber, of course.
I want to be like, what do you sit there at in your house, Rob?
Depends. Usually 76.
Ooh.
Oh my God. In the summer?
Yeah. Why, that's too hot?
You're sitting there, you're 76? Yeah, I'm like at 60.
60?
Oh, 60? Oh my God.
I mean, I'd like to be. No, 65,
Wow.
65.
Yeah, now I know.
I want to be crazy.
65 is still ridiculous.
You're killing the environment, Akiva.
No wonder you can't draw. Your fingers are
when
frozen.
I was in a hotel room for a month, like I said, the air was on 65 the whole month.
Wow. And you weren't even
They sent me a bill for that.
Yeah.
I know, but I was in there for a lot, and I wanted to come back. Like, sometimes they would clean the room, not too much because of COVID, but they'd clean the room, they'd like shut off the air. So I'm like, no, what are you doing? I want it to come when I come back. Like, it's got to be 65 for the last 10 hours.
Is that just because like you like to leave food out, and it's like, let me just make my home a refrigerator?
Sure, it's a fridge.
Turn anything away.
It's a refrigerator. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Last question here.
Okay.
Akiva, let's get real philosophical here. If you could be remembered for one thing besides being buttery, what would it be? A, bringing peace to two warring worlds. B, discovering the cure for a plague. C,
by the way, I think there was conflicting things. I was saying the AC temperature versus the thermostat. It was two separate things.
Wait, what's the difference?
Well,
I mean, I guess if you turn the AC,
put that on the survey. Is there a difference
because it's
between
not
the
central
AC
air. It's just like one
temperature
room.
and the thermostat?
Okay.
Yeah, but it makes the room 65 degrees, and then it turns off when you get to 65. It's the same idea.
I guess.
Am
what
I
were you
wrong
saying, Mike?
on this?
All right, so we got I feel like if you're turning on the AC, you intend for it to be cool, versus the thermostat is like setting the temperature for the room. I think there are negligible differences.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if you could be remembered for one thing: A, bringing peace to two warring worlds; B, discovering the cure for a plague.
Oh,
okay.
C,
I mean, like people, like did the person who came up with the vaccine first? Like, we don't know their name. We'll probably never know their name. So, I don't know if you get all the publicity for that maybe you would.
Well,
you would hope.
it's because back in the early days of science, you had one person who discovered it, but now everything is done by committee.
Yeah, there's no more Jonas Salks in the world.
Right. If I was on the committee, Jess, trust me, it would be in my Twitter bio.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure
like,
it is in their Twitter
guy
bios.
who discovered, guy who came up with the vaccine. But then you probably get a lot of mean DM.
Yeah, I think in a normal world where people are normal and rational, you could do that. But
yeah,
maybe you could just lock down certain parts of like who can respond to you, and you could still put it in there because it's still a pretty big brag.
Yeah,
the flex. Okay, all
right.
What
was the last one?
Akiva, please, let's get through this question.
Peace to two warring worlds. Cure for a plague. Would you designing a cutting edge engine that allows people to explore new parts of the galaxy, or would you want to be known for making first contact with an elusive alien creature?
Yeah, that one. I like the movie Contact. First of all, that's underrated. The Jodie Foster movie.
Though is that the one with the? No, I'm thinking about Frequency, right, where they're talking on the radio across
that's
time.
Frequency.
Yeah, through Frequency.
That's a better
the radio.
movie. Yeah.
No, I like Contact better than Frequency.
All right,
I like Contact.
Akiva. Well, I'm glad you like Contact because according to this quiz, you are a communications officer.
Okay, so I'm in PR. I'm in space PR. Okay.
Yeah, you're trying to. What's the best spin for Starfleet?
Yeah. So, Akiva, you would like open the hailing frequencies. Now, you have to not talk over the people when they're talking back to you on the spaceship, though.
No, that'll be hard. Yeah, but it's also like, are we in comms PR? Like, what's the am I?
No, I don't
am
think
I
they
doing
really
social
have
media?
no,
you think I'm doing
they don't really do social media. It's just basically like, all right, Whitaker, call that other ship, and like, all right, you're on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes you're just sort of like those women back in the 40s doing like the hang on, I'll transfer your call. Like sometimes you're just operating that board.
But it seems like that they're also like listening for stuff. So there's a little bit maybe, Justin, would you say it's like Clubhouse where it's just basically like if you're in like the Uhura, you're just listening to like, okay, all right, that's interesting. That's interesting. Captain, you want to hear this? Come here.
Yeah. Well, and then the joke in Galaxy Quest, which, by the way, Galaxy Quest, massively underrated movie. The joke is that the communications officer just repeats everything the computer says. So maybe that's, Kiva, you'd be pretty good at that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I also think like, would they be calling me for comment? Like, hey, your ship it's like someone on your ship did something offensive. And I have to like give them like a very PR you can't answer.
Again, I think you're getting this a little bit confused with like, you're not like a press secretary of the ship.
Okay, fine.
You're just the person who's like working like the communications of the ship.
You're not the Sean Spicer of the Enterprise.
You're the receptionist.
Yeah. No sake bombs.
Okay.
And I would say, being a human is fine. I think if Akiva was an alien species for the fun of it, I think he'd be a pack lead. I think it makes all the sense.
That's oddly specific, Bloom.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking about it. So the Pakleds are a culture of aliens who kind of don't want to do things themselves, and so they kind of rely on other people.
Yeah, this is very insulting,
those guys,
I think.
that tracks. That tracks.
Well, listen, you're someone who markets themselves the lazy Dodger. I feel like it's self-effacing almost to be like, listen, I don't want to fix my own comm system, so Geordi LaForge, we're going to beam you over and kidnap you so you can fix our comm systems for us.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. That
tracks.
They're like stupid kidnappers that like try to trick people into doing stuff for them.
Yeah, can't argue.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, what else we got?
They're efficient. We have some games for you, Kiva.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So we have a game here that this is a version of a game that's become very popular on our Mole Patrol podcast.
Yes.
And it's a game adapted for the Star Trek episode of Renap. It's a game that we are calling It's a Fake, and that's mostly for Rob's benefit.
Yes.
Play the drop, Mike.
Fake.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the way this game works is we have 5 questions and they're multiple choice. So I'm going to read you 4 plot lines or stories that have happened in the Star Trek universe. They're all thematically connected. And then you're going to tell me which one of these is fake. Now, Rob, I know you've watched a fair amount of TNG,
Sure.
so you may be kind of helpful here. But I've gone across all of the Star Trek series to pull together these various plot lines.
Okay, there's 5 of them.
Yeah, there's 5 of them. And there's 5 questions with 4 options each.
Okay.
And one of them, 3 of each of the options are real. One of them is fake.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to give Akiva the first crack at these, but Rob, you can certainly coach him.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So our first question, the theme is gross and creepy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to read you these 4 plot lines. And again, 3 of them are real and one of them is fake. So here's your first one. This happened in Star Trek Enterprise. On a distant planet, Captain Archer is transfixed by a beautiful woman who turns out to be a shape-shifting psychic giant slug. The creature has read his mind and taken the form of his ideal woman in order to seduce him, in the hope that he and his crew can make the locals stop hunting her people for sport. All right, your second one. This comes from Next Generation. An old friend alerts Captain Picard that he's noticed some very strange staffing changes at the highest levels of Starfleet, and then that friend turns up dead. And it turns out that dozens of Starfleet officers have been taken over by giant worm-like parasites that live in their necks and control their every move. This one, original series. The Enterprise lands on a planet with a slightly spongy surface, and when Spock attempts to take a soil sample, he realizes they have not landed on a surface at all, but on the belly of a giant creature that immediately swallows the ship. The crew then has mere hours to figure out how to get the creature to vomit them back into space before its stomach acid compromises the hull.
Mm-hmm. So Jonah and the Whale, but with a spaceship.
Yeah, pretty much. And finally, on Star Trek Discovery, while hosting a trade summit with a local crime boss, Admiral Vance offers her a plate of replicated food and then discloses that in the 32nd century, replicator technology creates food by repurposing human excrement.
Ooh. So I think C or D is fake. I don't know if it's the poop or the whale. And you didn't specify which animal or porpoise or mammal
Always
or
comes
whatever.
down to the poop or the whale.
The poop or the whale. It's my favorite movie by
Jeff Daniels.
Noah Baumbach.
Noah Baumbach's best movie. I'm going to say the whale is fake. Not enough information about what animal it is.
Well, there's never enough information about what animal it is, Akiva. It's Star Trek.
That's true.
It's never an animal you've seen. But you are correct.
Yeah.
That is the one that is fake.
Nice.
Look at you,
Rob. You knew that? You knew that, Rob?
Yeah, I didn't remember that plot line from Star Trek, the original series.
So we had poop food, Jess? That was a plot?
That is real. In the 32nd century, their replicators work by taking all of the waste matter on the ship and repurposing it into food.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but it also, I don't know. There's so much about the bleak future in so many ways. Star Trek is supposed to be hopeful. It's supposed to be utopian. It's supposed to be this perfect paradise. Is it worth it living in the future if you have to eat poopy? I'm not sure.
Ew. If you say it like that, that's gross.
Yeah, it's true. It's upsetting. Okay, so the next category for question number 2, we have fun and games.
Oh, we like those.
We love fun and games on this show.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now. It's very meta. All right, so here's your first one. This is from the original series. The Enterprise lands on a planet ruled by a self-styled general who wears fancy 18th century military garb and immediately commences to bending reality around the crew, causing them to disappear and reappear, changing their clothing, and eventually sentencing Captain Kirk to death in an elaborate courtroom scene. Until the general's parents, 2 beings of pure energy, show up to collect their child and apologize profusely for his antics. That's number 1. Here's number 2. This is from Deep Space Nine. The senior staff of Deep Space Nine make contact with a new species called the Wadi, who are obsessed with games. They suddenly find themselves transported into an elaborate puzzle game called Chula, a sort of high-stakes chutes and ladders where they are tortured in new and more challenging ways on each level. Back at Quark's bar, the Wadi force Quark to bet on the outcome of each puzzle. Your third one, this comes again from Star Trek Discovery. Ensign Tilly discovers a centuries-old text-based adventure game buried deep within the ship's subroutines, and she and several crewmates become transfixed by it, spending their off hours trying to unlock each level. As the final boss approaches, Commander Reno suddenly becomes concerned that solving the game might release a virus or otherwise corrupt the system, so she beats the game while everyone else is sleeping, infuriating them when they discover they've been spoiled. They refuse to believe she was genuinely concerned. And finally, this is from Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah.
The crew of Voyager discovers 3 aliens in suspended animation. To figure out how to wake them up, they attempt to tap into the collective subconscious of the aliens, only to find themselves sucked into a weird circus ruled over by a sadistic clown that threatens to kill the aliens if anyone tries to wake them up.
I think the clown is fake. I think like the nerdy game sounds very Star Trek-y. The Wadi game. I'm going to say the clown is the D is fake. The D is fake.
Rob, do you have any opinion on this?
I feel like that the first 2 sounded real. I don't remember the Discovery or I think I would agree with Akiva.
All right. Well, you're incorrect. It is the Discovery one that is fake.
Discovery, yeah.
So yeah, creepy clown.
Creepy clown.
I guess
too spooky. I'm going to skip that
watch
episode.
that one.
Yeah,
Totally
probably
real.
put that away in your mind, Rob, of like, oh, clowns in Star Trek. I thought you could never escape them.
When I read about that one, I was like, we're definitely using that one because I know how Rob feels about clowns.
Yeah, I'm going to Google creepy clown Voyager.
Don't say anything about the creepy clown in Voyager.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope you make it incognito because I don't want your ads to be influenced by this.
Oh, that's true. That would be scary.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Love creepy clowns. Here's some in your area.
Yep. Local creepy clowns want to meet you.
Okay. Got it.
All right. So remember when we were talking about the transporter earlier and I said to put a pin in it because now we're going to talk about transporter malfunctions. And there were a lot of these on Star Trek over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So here's a plot line from Star Trek The Next Generation. The Enterprise finds a man stranded on a deserted science outpost who looks exactly like Commander Riker. It turns out he is Commander Riker, or rather a duplicate of Riker who was created in a transporter accident 8 years prior. The duplicate Riker decides to go by his middle name, Thomas, and he joins the crew temporarily, but he finds himself resenting Will Riker, who's lived a great life while he was stranded for 8 years. Not to mention things are awkward with Deanna Troi, who had been dating Riker at the time of the accident.
Classic.
All right, and this one's from Enterprise. The Enterprise's first transporter has been installed, and because some of the crew are a little afraid of it, Captain Archer offers to take the first trip along with his beagle, Porthos, only for Porthos to fail to rematerialize when it's time to beam back aboard. The ship's computer speaks in whines and barks for a while, and a few systems go haywire when someone finds a tennis ball on the bridge. But Chief Engineer Tucker eventually finds Porthos's transporter pattern trapped within the ship's holomatrix, and he's able to bring him back.
Okay.
And here's from Star Trek Voyager. Tuvok and Neelix are in the midst of being transported back to the ship.
How do you spell Tuvok?
Tuvok. He's a Vulcan.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he's not
Just
a hologram.
just making sure he's not fake, Jess.
He's not a fake. Yeah.
Okay.
Tuvok. He's a Vulcan, and Neelix is he's a Talaxian. He's a different species. That we haven't seen. Yeah. He kind of sucks.
Ooh, Neelix.
Yeah. So Tuvok and Neelix are in the midst of being transported back to the ship when the transporter malfunctions and fuses them into one being. Tuvix, as he styles himself, lives among the crew for a month while the doctor looks for a way to reverse the process, and he becomes a valued member of the crew. By the time the doctor finds a cure, Tuvix has developed a strong sense of identity as his own being, and he feels that being separated will be the same as murdering him.
Oh, so he stays like that forever?
No, they murder him.
Oh, geez. Yeah. So I think D is real. I'm going to say B is fake.
Well, we got another one.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Slow down.
Oh, sorry.
Slow
Yeah,
down.
There is no D.
There is no D yet.
I meant. Sorry.
Yeah,
I thought
D.
I forgot we didn't do 4.
Yeah.
Okay. That's real.
Yeah, this one comes from Star Trek The Next Generation. Captain Picard, Ensign Rowe, Keiko O'Brien, and Guinan are beaming back to the ship when a transporter malfunction regresses them down to having the physical appearance of 12-year-olds. The ship is later overtaken by rogue Ferengi, who imprison the adults, but ignore the kids, who are then able, with the help of Worf's son Alexander, to retake the ship. When it comes time to reassume their old bodies, Ensign Ro decides to stay a kid for a while in order to enjoy the kind of childhood she couldn't have on her war-torn homeworld. All right, so there's your 4. You have Commander Riker gets duplicated, and the second Riker just kind of goes out into the world and resents the first Riker. You have Porthos the Beagle gets stuck in the transporter. You have Tuvok and Neelix becoming Tuvix, and then you have some of the staff becoming kids.
I think A is fake. I think the first one, A and C are similar. I think A is fake.
Rob, you have any
Yeah,
input?
C is fake. Tuvix is not real.
No.
You're both
Tuvix is
wrong.
real.
You're both wrong. Tuvix is very real.
Is it the dog getting stuck or whatever?
Yeah, the dog getting stuck is the fake one.
Oh.
Yeah, Tuvix actually one of the most incredibly controversial moments in Star Trek history, because the captain, as we said, ends up carrying it through, and many thought like a Starfleet captain would never murder someone.
Yeah, is it murder if 2 people are fused into one? We discussed
Yeah.
that before.
And it turns out that like Tuvix has all of the best qualities of both Tuvok and Neelix, and everybody likes him better than either one separately.
Yeah, I guess there is a Tuvix meme.
Yeah, well, I belong to this Facebook group called Star Trek Shitposting, and half of the posts are about Tuvix.
And most of it's actually just eating the same post.
Which
that are being
actor played Tuvix?
They had a third actor that they brought in who kind of interacted with both of the other actors and kind of got the personalities down, because they figured they couldn't cast either one of the actors because they might favor one or the other.
Yeah,
that does beg the question: do we think Rob Kiva would be like the ultimate podcaster in that regard and take over for this podcast?
Yeah, if the two of you fused into one being,
yeah.
If we split you back again, would we be murdering Rob Kiva?
I don't know. Would Rob Kiva be a better podcaster than either of us separate?
It would take. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know.
I guess the thought experiment is that it does, right? So I guess the question is: would you rather have Rob Kiva monologuing to himself every weekend, or would you rather separate them two, but in the process know that as an audience you are murdering Rob Kiva?
Well, you'd have guests, I suppose, on Rob Kiva Needs a Podcast.
We'd have to switch the theme song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting.
I'll think about it.
Not worth changing the theme song.
No, we just keep the theme song forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think you need to change it much.
Like, I guess you would just take it to end. You could probably cut it and you could probably edit it a little bit. But it's not really Renap anymore.
Can you do a quick drawing of Rob Kiva for a second with your expert drawing skills?
I could do one of those.
Yeah.
There's somebody could do it in Photoshop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Photodraw.com.
Someone is already merging your faces in Photoshop. That's already happening.
Yeah.
Just want you to be comfortable with that.
Well, what season was this Tuvix fiasco?
I'll
was
have
this
to
towards
look that
the
up.
end? Yeah.
No, it was like solidly in the middle, I think.
It was solidly in the middle.
Let me look that up.
I think I sort of once they went to the
season 2, episode 24, so pretty early.
Okay.
I mean, this was near the end of the season, though, right? So they're just like, we're running out of ideas. The two characters merged together.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely something they had never done before. It's a great idea.
Yeah, I think I was very much a Voyager casual.
Yeah, as was I, but this is a great episode. And I don't actually get into here any of the, Voyager also had the worst episode of Star Trek ever made.
Which one is that?
Threshold.
Oh, that's the one. I don't think it's going to be on the quiz, right? Or should we spoil it?
No, it's not on my quiz. Yeah, we can spoil it.
Is that where they go so fast that they de-evolve?
Yeah, that's when Tom Paris and Janeway devolve into lizard creatures, and then they are stuck on a planet having lizard babies, and then they become themselves again, and they never talk about the lizard babies again.
Yeah, so Rob, be warned. This is what happens when you continue to watch things at 3X. You're going to turn into a lizard person.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. But what if the lizard person feuds with Akiva? Would we like that
that's
combination?
interesting. So lizard Rob.
I get along with people. You think I would feud with the lizard person?
I'm saying lizard Rob Kiva. I don't know how we like that.
I think the food would be a big issue. Like, I don't know if we take after me wanting to eat all day or Rob being very indifferent towards food.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm willing to budge, is what I'm saying. You know?
Well, apparently,
Yeah, well, what's the thermostat going to be set at? That's the big question.
Yeah, that's the question.
Somewhere between Rob's 100 and my 50.
Yeah, but Akiva has plenty of money, so he doesn't mind having the thermostat at 65.
Well, I wasn't paying for it in the hotel. That was at the hotel. It was 65.
You were paying for the hotel, right?
No, the work was
No.
paying for the hotel.
Okay. Well, you were paying for it one way or another.
One way or another. So, yeah, we have another one of these quizzes. I feel like I'm doing okay.
Yeah, we got two more. Yeah, you're doing great, actually. You've got one right, which is more than Josh Wigler usually gets right. So,
Akiva, should they advertise in a hotel room unlimited electricity?
I think so. I do feel bad usually. Like, I usually am good with stuff like that. But I also was like,
charge all your devices.
Yeah,
run the AC.
Unlimited, if you're advertising unlimited electricity, that makes me then assume do some hotels charge you an electric bill?
Actually,
they
some
must
of
get
them
some
do.
deal, right?
They should. They all should.
Yeah, there's in the Bahamas, this place we stayed had a resort fee.
Yeah.
It was like for the electric bill.
Charge hotel guests for the electricity. That's a great way to save the environment.
Yeah. That's like a Nathan Fusca, like the mission.
Save the planet. Charge hotel guests because they're all running the AC at 62 the whole day.
It's free mini bar because like the bottle of soda and like the Milky Way bar, that's nothing. Like free, we advertise a free mini bar, but we do like to make up for it. We charge for the AC.
Could they put an exercise bike in the room and let you generate some of your own if you didn't want to pay for it?
Oh, that's a good idea.
And then you save the gym fees. Yeah.
BYOE, bring your own electricity.
See, Jess, I thought it was minibar style where you'd be teasing us with more electricity. Like, here's like 8 hair dryers if you want to use them. And like
you have to open up the extra outlet and then it costs money as soon as they know you've opened the door. Yeah.
So no, your idea is that you're like generating the electricity yourself.
You could generate the electricity or you could pay for it.
And if you can't pay the bill, then you just have to be like a human fan, like a waiter in the restaurant.
Right.
The next person who comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
All right. What's the next question?
The next question, our theme is holograms gone wrong.
Okay.
So, this is all about, like, we learned a little bit about the holosuites and the holodecks. And, I told you a bit about the emergency holograms. So that's what family this is all in. Okay. So first up, we have, Star Trek: The Next Generation. Data, a huge Sherlock Holmes fan, wants to play a holodeck mystery that takes him longer than 10 seconds to solve. Geordi LaForge works with the computer to create a character capable of defeating Data, which has the effect of transforming Professor Moriarty, who's like the Sherlock Holmes bad guy, into a hyper-intelligent AI that can break the bounds of the program and seize control of the ship. So, okay, this one's from Star Trek Picard, which aired last summer. Picard hires a transport freighter called La Sirena, which is owned and captained by Chris Rios. Apart from Rios, La Sirena is crewed entirely by emergency holograms that look exactly like Rios, but feature different personalities and accents. This is from Star Trek Lower Decks, which also aired last summer. Ensign Rutherford creates a tutorial program he calls Badgie, a cheerful anthropomorphic insignia reminiscent of Clippy. But Badgie becomes corrupted after an encounter with an enemy ship and turns on his creator, disabling the holodeck safety protocols and violently attacking him. And finally, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Chief O'Brien's 5-year-old daughter, Molly, is obsessed with a holosuite program about colorful fuzzy creatures that resemble tribbles. We talked about tribbles, remember? When Chief O'Brien reaches his absolute limit with the program, he attempts to hack into Quark's system and delete it, only for the program to infest the replicator in Quark's bar and flood it with rainbow tribbles.
Were tribbles very funny?
Yeah, it is very funny.
You ever have a fribble?
What is a fribble again?
That's a very New England thing.
From Friendlies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do they still have Friendlies?
Yeah.
I think they still exist, but I think there's very few.
When I was a kid, I feel like getting ice cream at Friendlies, because the ice cream there would be kosher, even though like the rest of the food wasn't.
Interesting.
At some of the Friendlies was like, it was such a treat. That was like one of my favorite food things to do when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I feel like Friendlies has sort of been, I don't know, pushed out of the way in lieu of like Dairy Queen or even Denny's. Like, I guess maybe it's the similarity in the name structure and like the apostrophe S at the end, but I feel like people talk about Denny's over Friendlies.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, for sure. Yeah, Friendlies is like that. They have like ice cream in supermarkets. Like they have a chain, they have like a brand that and it's not so good. I don't
Sure.
Also,
Sure. All right, Akiva, which of the hologram?
The Fribble one, the last one. I think D is fake.
What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, because I know that Deep Space Nine, they did the Tribble episode where they did it like with time travel. So I feel like that they didn't double down on the Tribbles at Quark's bar.
Yeah, I mean, that's a well you could certainly have gone back to, but they did not. You guys are correct on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got your final question. This is time travel.
Oh.
Is your theme of your final one. Okay. So, from Star Trek The Next Generation. Oh, we didn't really tell you about Q, Akiva.
But he did watch Cupid.
Oh, that's right. He did watch. Okay, so you know who Q is, right? Okay.
Yeah,
So-
and that's the Star Trek one, not like the guys with the the American flag.
Right.
Okay, fine.
No,
All right,
no,
fine.
no.
Okay, fine. All right.
I bet John Delancey is really pissed off that those guys are a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So this is from Star Trek The Next Generation. Q sends Captain Picard on a temporal scavenger hunt of sorts by sending various members of the senior staff across space and time, claiming that this will help him understand humanity's history and give Picard a chance to prove the lengths he'll go to for his crew. But the joke's on Q because their first stop, 1930s San Francisco, is Picard's wheelhouse thanks to his favorite holodeck program. Okay. Your second one. This is from Deep Space Nine. On their way to drop Nog off at Starfleet Academy.
Nog is kind of like NGOG, Akiva.
It is true. Nagog.
It's true. Nagog. So,
You should be the
Quark-
mascot.
Just imagine.
I don't think Allie's ever seen Star Trek either.
No, don't tell Allie. I just want you to one day see if you could change the podcast artwork to be just a picture of Nog from Star Trek.
Oh yeah, I definitely have access to all the artwork and stuff
Can
like that.
I Photoshop something for you? I have this in my head. I have the picture of what that should look like.
Yeah, please give Nog Zoe Deschanel's bangs. I think
That's
that needs-
exactly what
that
I'm
needs
picturing.
to be the artwork.
Yeah. Okay. So Quark, Rom, and Nog are going to Starfleet Academy to drop off Nog, and they accidentally get thrown back in time and they crash land in Roswell, Nevada. After a series of increasingly hostile encounters with military and scientists, eventually they escape by flying their ship directly into an atomic bomb test. Quark laments missing an opportunity to sell off their future technology and take over the planet. All right, this is from the animated series, which we haven't much talked about, but it's underrated. After a run-in with the Guardian of Forever, Spock returns to the Enterprise to find that nobody recognizes him and someone else is doing his job.
What?
He returns to Vulcan to learn that the timeline has been altered to one where he died in an accident as a child. So Spock goes back in time and poses as his own cousin to save his child self and restore the timeline. And finally, this is from Star Trek Enterprise. After apparently destroying an alien weapon that was aimed at Earth, the Enterprise discovers that they've gone back in time to 1944, where enemy aliens have also time traveled and are using a combination of altered historical events and future technology to change the course of World War II, marking an important battle in the temporal Cold War as various factions attempt to alter history in their own favor.
I think the fake one is. I think you were just trying to get the animated series involved, make feel like appreciated. So I think the animated series one is fake, Jeff.
All right, Rob, what do you think?
What's the second one again?
This is the Ferengi landing in Roswell,
No,
Nevada.
that's real. And then the first one is.
First one is Q sending Captain Picard across space and time to find his senior staff.
Yeah, I don't think that's real.
All right. So, Rob, you're correct. And I knew that if I tried to slip a Next Generation fake one past you, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yes.
And I was correct on that.
I mean, I've seen every episode of the.
I know you have.
Next Generation.
Yep. Well, depending on how we look at it, you all got either 40 or 60% correct, and that's better than Josh and Zed typically do on a Mole Patrol week. But anytime you guys want to tune into Mole Patrol, we do the quiz, and it's always a different theme of television shows every week. And the great Sarah Carradine gave us a question about this totally bonkers Australian kids show called Round the Twist that completely broke Josh Wigler. Like, you've seen him broken.
Yes.
You have not seen him broken like this.
Wow.
It was new territory. And, it has we've had trouble like rebounding and making the quiz fun again after it was maximum fun, but we're getting there.
Listen, we're humans, right? We're going to celebrate the fact that you got even one question right.
Yes, the moral victory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, the moral victory. It's
That's right.
manufactured victory.
I'm
So
going to
drink a toast to that.
ask for your autograph, Jess. We're drinking in the bar. I'm celebrating. I'm excited.
Throw the baseball up. All right, Akiva, I got one more game for you. We're going to go warp speed on this one. But look, you're about to engage on indulging into many, many more episodes of Star Trek after this, hopefully. I think you should know how many famous faces have appeared on Star Trek over the years, because it is quite a number. You know, LeVar
I didn't know that.
So what I'm going to do, I just came up with a really quick game. I'm going to give you two names, one of whom has been on Star Trek, one of whom has not. You have to guess who is the one who was on Star Trek.
Okay, fine.
So let's start with your wheelhouse here. Let's talk Seinfeld stars. Who appeared on Star Trek? Jason Alexander or Patrick Warburton?
I don't know if I guess everyone's old enough because this was 98. It wasn't like the old school.
Yeah, and remember, this is also Star Trek expanding all shows. So
I'm going to say Alexander seems like he would like to do a stint on Star Trek. I'm going to say George Costanza was on Star Trek.
Yes, he wanted to, and he did. Jason Alexander appeared in Star Trek Voyager as a spokesperson for a group of alien scholars.
I could see him being a big Star Trek fan also, Jason Alexander.
All right, well, let's stay on this same trail and talk about one-time Jerry girlfriends who appeared on Star Trek. Anna
His
Gunn.
17-year-old high school. Oh, no, not really.
No,
Sorry.
Anna Gunn or Terry Hatcher?
I think the episode with Terry Hatcher was not real nor spectacular. I think it's Anna Gunn.
It's the exact opposite. She was real and spectacular on the Star Trek The Next Generation.
Rob, you knew that?
Who was she again?
She was just a random Starfleet person on the Outrageous Okana.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about a new obsession of yours, Akiva, The Fast and the Furious.
Yes.
These two often butt heads. Only one of them appeared in Star Trek, though. Vin Diesel or Dwayne The Rock Johnson?
Oh, Vinny D. He's older. He was probably around longer. I don't think The Rock was on Star Trek.
The Rock was on Star Trek.
Wow.
What? When?
So he was in a Voyager episode where he essentially plays like this big barbarian fighter. This is back during his like proto WWE
Rocky Maivia days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he, it's interesting. Yeah. Some people appear like in, obviously in more accomplished roles as bigger names. Some just started out like your Terry Hatchers, and The Rock is the latter.
Yeah. And can I just put in a fact check that Vin Diesel is only 5 years older than The Rock?
Okay.
It's not a generational thing.
No, I know, but I sort of like know most of the trajectory of The Rock's career. And I feel like Vin Diesel toiled in relative obscurity longer than The Rock did, if that's fair.
I think I would also say Vin Diesel though as well, because Vin Diesel is also like that underground nerd, right? Like he loves to play D&D on the set of his movie, so I think it would make sense, sort of like in the Jason Alexander mold. He's talked about it a lot. He's talked about like wanting to be involved in a D&D movie for a while now. So like he's a big old nerd, that Vin Diesel. Emphasis on big.
Wow.
All right.
I didn't know that.
Akiva, which of these two unique musicians had a role on Star Trek? Matt Frewer, aka Max Headroom, or David Byrne of the Talking Heads?
Now we're getting like into the weeds here. I'm going to say David Byrne was on Star Trek.
No, it was Max Headroom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is he a musician, Mike? I don't know if he counts as a musician.
I mean, there's music, I suppose, around him. I'm not sure. It was weird to
There's so many other musician directions you could have gone with that, which we'll talk about after the quiz.
I think he's in a video.
Yeah, I guess that's more so like I'm associating his weird image. But yeah, he did not. I guess he's used to being made up, but he actually looked relatively normal in the episode that he was in.
That's true.
Which one of these Comedy Central leads from back in the day was on Star Trek, Akiva? Sarah Silverman or Amy Sedaris?
I'm going to say I don't know. I don't know of Sarah being on Star Trek, and I know less about Sedaris. Someone who was Sedaris.
It is Sarah Silverman.
Oh, what was she in?
She was in a 2-part episode of Star Trek Voyager.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was one of these like random roles back when she was being comedy's it girl in like the mid to late 90s.
Akiva, are you thinking that maybe Star Trek Voyager could be the next episode or rewatch podcast that you do?
No, I don't think so. I'm already spoiled on half the stuff from the quiz.
Yeah, well, I don't know. You're going to have a great time with Tuvix, I can already tell.
Yeah, Tuvix does sound fun. That I'm going to watch.
All right, let's talk some Cheers here, Akiva. And here's a familiar face for you. Kelsey Grammer or John Ratzenberger, who's appeared on Star Trek.
Yeah, I know.
Akiva hates Kelsey Grammer.
I hate Kelsey Grammer. Of course, everyone loves John Ratzenberger. Another fellow Jeopardy contestant, McJess. I'm gonna say the Rats was on, not Kelsey. I'm gonna say Ratzenberger was on Star Trek.
No, the Rats have fled the ship. I'm listening to Kelsey Grammer on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Okay.
Basically,
was that a country grammar reference?
No, I think I'm listening was his catchphrase, right? It's Dr. Fraser's brain.
Yes.
Yeah, he shows up at the very end of a very famous episode of Star Trek, Cause and Effect. He basically shows up at the end as like this beleaguered captain saying, hey, we've been lost in this temporal loop for like years and years and years. All right, let's talk some, you know what? The Spider-Man trailer just released. Which one of these two girlfriends of Peter Parker was in Star Trek? Kirsten Dunst or Bryce Dallas Howard?
I'm going to say BDH. I think maybe very recently she was on like the Paramount Plus one or something.
No, we're going KD. She was on as a super little girl in the Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, around the Interview with the Vampire era.
What's Kirsten Dunst up to? She's still acting?
She, I feel like she was in Fargo a few years ago, right? I think she's doing some stuff, actually. I think it's been a bit of a Dunstissance.
Oh, the Dunstissance.
Yeah.
Rolls off the tongue.
Uh-huh.
All right. How about some stars from Mad Max Fury Road? Tom Hardy or Charlize Theron?
Well, first of all, we know Charlize Theron from Fast and Furious. Yeah. She's the big bad right now.
Cypher.
Yeah, I'm going to say Hardy.
Yes, you're correct. Tom Hardy actually plays a cloned version, younger version of Jean-Luc Picard in the film Star Trek Nemesis.
Oh.
One of his first big roles.
Yeah.
All right, now these next two I know are definitely musicians. So
are these the last two, Mike?
These are the last two.
This was the game at Warp Speed.
Yeah, this was Warp Speed.
All right, last two. David Bowie or Iggy Pop?
Is there a trick question? Is it neither? Can't see either being on there. I'm going to say Bowie.
I'm sorry, it was Iggy Pop.
Iggy Pop. Mike, Rob, what do you know about Iggy Pop?
Does he make the theme song to the Jim Rome show?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. Apparently, he's a big Star Trek fan. So he basically got like covered in makeup. And this actually happened with a few people, since I didn't include them. Like the guitarist for Rage Against the Machine was in an episode. So like they really just like to throw these people in makeup, these musicians, like say, just stand there and make weird noises. And
Mick Fleetwood is my favorite. Like Google Mick Fleetwood Star Trek. It's fantastic.
And then finally, we talked about Anna Gunn before, but let's talk about some Better Call Saul stars, Akiva. Michael McKean and Jonathan Banks.
I'm going to say McKean was in Star Trek, sorry.
I'm going to count you half right because the trick question, they're both in Star Trek.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What was Jonathan Banks?
Jonathan Banks was in Deep Space Nine. He was the leader of like this ragtag underground militia. And Michael McKean.
We're a ragtag bunch of militia people.
And he's also in heavy makeup. So
this makeup is pretty heavy.
You recognize his voice before you realize it's him. And it's really trippy post Breaking Bad.
And Michael McKean just recalled the episode of Rob's Nightmares with the clown. Michael McKean played said clown.
Yes, I did get that in my Google. Yeah.
I believe he is credited as Fear Clown.
Fear Clown. Yep. Not good.
All right. So hopefully with some of those, IMDb credits under their belts, Akiva, hopefully this helps grease the way for you to, or butter the way for you to be able to undergo some Star Trek, knowing that you get to see some famous faces along the way.
Okay. That's exciting.
Yeah. Okay. But Akiva's face blind, so he'll have to just scour the credits to say, like, oh, look at that.
I'll be like the catcher during that game who was like, he didn't know who to tag. They all look the same, so he was just tagging one after the other. Which, by the way, was a funny scene. We didn't talk about that. That was a funny scene in the show.
Yeah, big play at the plate. All right. Mike and Jess, is there anything else about the world of Star Trek in this crash course for Akiva that you want to share?
Well, I'm glad that it went over well. I think Mike, you did a very good job of picking the right episode for Akiva to watch. And
Yeah, I like the episode.
yeah, I think if you want to check out more sometime, we'd be happy to curate a list of good episodes to get you started with any series you want to watch. Voyager might be kind of getting into Star Trek on hard mode, but there's something great to be found in every one of these series, except maybe Enterprise, but don't quote me on that.
Star Trek Enterprise has a kick-in theme song.
Yeah, every post in my Star Trek meme Facebook group that is not about Tuvix is about Faith of the Heart.
Basically, Akiva, all the other, you listen to Deep Space Nine, right? Like the themes to Star Trek are very like orchestral and soaring. And they decided for one series to just bring in like an 80s rock band to do a lyrics-filled song called Faith of the Heart for one of their.
A Diane Warren song sung by a Rod Stewart sound-alike.
Actually, you know what? I think I may have it queued up. Let me see if I can find it and play it here.
Mikey on the spot.
All right, here we go.
It's been a long road getting from there to here. It's been a long time.
These are also over images of like ships exploring the world. And then space shuttles.
Yeah, it's a very different aesthetic.
You get.
Yeah, and I will say I was so excited that it had been about 2 years since we'd had like new Star Trek. And I was like, new Star Trek, very excited for this. And I tuned in. I was out on Enterprise in 30 seconds. By the time I heard that song, I'm like, nope, this isn't for me.
Wow.
And the song killed it.
That was it. You gotta have a good theme song, Akiva.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys know this. You bracketed them twice.
That's true. That's true.
This was not in any of the brackets.
Yeah.
No, maybe the third one.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you both for all of the hard work. You put a lot of time into this. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Is anybody planning to stick around for the mailbag?
Sadly, I have to go back to work.
Okay. How about you, Mixmaster Mike?
I'm here. This is my 5-year mission.
Okay. All right.
I'm at the chair right now at the comms.
Okay.
All right.
Yes,
I'm going to beam out.
Well, Jess, what's coming up for you before you beam out?
Well, we're working on rewatching the 2001 reality series The Mole over on Mole Patrol.
Season 2.
Yeah, season 2, which is for my money, maybe the greatest season of reality TV ever made. And Brooklyn Zed and I are longtime fans of this series. Josh Wigler has never seen it, does not know anything about it, is watching it completely unspoiled, and it's been much easier since it hit Netflix. So we encourage everybody to watch along with us as we go through The Mole. And
how many seasons of The Mole are there, Jess?
There are, well, it depends, Akiva. This is a longer answer than you are asking for.
Yeah.
But
It's like Star Trek.
It's like Star Trek. There were 2 Anderson Cooper seasons. This is before Anderson Cooper was famous. He hosted The Mole. And then there are 2 seasons of Celebrity Mole. And then one other season they tried to reboot it again in like 2008.
Like during the writer's strike. Yeah.
And then there are also at least 50 to 60 international seasons of The Mole. And you can go far down a rabbit hole. It's not a rabbit hole I personally have ever explored. Yeah. So if you got very into the idea of the game, there is literally like you could become that guy who knows The Mole better than everybody else. But again, if the feedback on our podcast is any indication, you would have a lot of competition for that as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, yeah. And we are coming up on, in a couple of weeks, we're going to hit the episode of The Mole that contains, for my money, the #1 greatest moment in all of television. And we have made plans to be in the same room with Josh Wigler when he experiences this moment.
Wow.
And I cannot wait.
That's commitment on the Mole Patrol podcast.
That is great.
Yeah, we're very, very excited for that. And then I also, I'm covering The Walking Dead, and we have a kind of a rotating panel. Usually it's me and Chappelle every week, but then Josh Wigler stops by when he can, and AJ Mass is going to be joining the panel this season as well.
Bringing it home.
Yeah.
Rob, you no longer watch The Walking Dead, right?
No.
Mm-hmm.
I made Rob watch an episode during the mini season that happened over, last spring, but yeah, I envy Rob for having dropped out when he did. I'm still here. I mean, it did get a little bit better. It's been fun.
It's the last season, right?
Yeah, it's the last season. They're going to stretch it over. They're doing the Breaking Bad thing of stretching it over 2 years, though.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really the last season. I mean, it's good.
That's like a union busting thing. Also, that's just like so they could pay people the rate that they were getting.
Well,
First
and
season.
it's also thematic in that it will never die.
Yeah. What is dead may never die. So that's fun. And then we actually just got noticed, like, while I was on this podcast with you, I got in my inbox from AMC screeners for Walking Dead World Beyond, which is a spin-off.
By the way, look at this flex, Rob. Jess is getting sent screeners.
Yeah.
I never got a screener in my life.
Well, who do you want to send you a screener? New guy, new girl, old guy?
Well, New Girl doesn't really have any shows.
Yeah,
I guess
I'll
it would
send
be
you a screener.
weird.
It's called a DVD.
Yeah.
Would be weird if,
screener
like,
do you want?
I want all the new movies, you know?
Well, I'm not on the Academy.
To be part of a guild to do that.
Well, we're in the Podcasters Guild.
Yeah.
I don't do one. I just want to watch them.
Yeah, I get AMC screeners because we do Killing Eve and Walking Dead. And they dropped they're excited that we cover World Beyond, so they gave us the first 2 episodes of World Beyond, which starts on October 3rd. And so we're going to go from Walking Dead right into World Beyond. And we were so attached, Chappelle and I especially, were very attached to the characters in World Beyond. So we're very excited for that.
Yeah. You know, I watched, I really liked Kevin Can F Himself, which was a new recent AMC show. Did you watch that, Jess?
Yeah, I watched a bit of that. That was
Did
pretty
they
good.
send you screeners for that? Where they're like,
They
Jess,
did.
we really hope you like it. Look at you. Oh, my God.
No,
Jess is like
that's what
the
happens when
queen
networks
of AMC.
With networks, sometimes like
say,
that happens with me and Amazon, where it's like I got access to cover one show, and they're like, all right, we got you in the door. Now please cover all this other thing.
Yeah.
That's what streaming is nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Bloom probably gets way more screeners than I do.
Yeah.
Like, I just got on the AMC list, and I was on the Netflix list for a while, but I don't write anymore, so I think I fell off of that.
Akiva, maybe for 32 fans, maybe you could ask the NFL to send you the screeners for the game so you and Chester can cover them like before anybody else does.
Yeah, do you guys have the spoilers for the games?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, when does the embargo lift on the
you could review
Lions
the
Tigers
games
game?
and then have the podcast ready to go right after like the end of the week.
It would be much easier than recording it after like 10 hours of football.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Yeah.
What happened in the game, guys?
Okay.
They used to air stuff like that. NBA Finals used to be on tape delay.
Why? So in case someone cursed or like pulled down their pants or something?
No, it just like they just wanted to air in prime time and the games weren't played in prime time. They would air it on like even in the 80s, into the 80s, they were airing like Larry Bird, NBA Finals games on tape delay.
All right. And then, Mike, do you want to give out a plug or two here so then people don't have to wait all the way to the end of the podcast?
Yeah, give
to
like
get-
the halfway house plugs.
Yeah. All right, Mike Blue plugs. We could all take a bathroom break.
Well,
while
Mike
tells us
Bloom, you
everything
can
he's
do
up to.
half of them now and half
Yeah,
of them
that's
at
what
the
we're
end of the
saying.
mailbag.
Break it up.
Yeah, exactly. Half now, half later.
Tease some of them for later.
I'll throw something exciting out right now.
Chum the
throw out
waters.
something new before we do something old. Something new, and this is not only applying to me, but actually several Renap guests of old and new. At the time people are listening to this, there should be a web series out called Black Widow Brigade.
Yes.
Which is a social strategy game a la Mafia combined with Survivor. Took place over one night back in like October. None of us remember what happened in it, but it features a bunch of previous Renap guests, myself, the aforementioned Josh Wigler, Shannon Gus.
That's very mysterious.
It's incredibly mysterious, and there's a lot of rules to it that's been explained over the course of social media, but it becomes more complicated as the game goes along. But if you want to check out Allie, Jordan Kalish, Jess Sterling, DJ LaBelle Klein, Karen from Canada, there are a lot of Renap All-Stars, I would say, that get to play in this game. It's going to be released in several episodes, but if you're interested in that, check that out. And in terms of Star Trek stuff, I guess, which is most applicable. So Star Trek Picard doesn't come back till, I think, 2022. Lower Decks is airing right now, but I think we're probably not going to cover that until there's another Star Trek series on the horizon. So I think Picard is when we're going to come back next. But after that, we're getting Picard, we're getting Discovery Season 4. There's Strange New Worlds, which is coming. There's Star Trek Prodigy, which is like a brand new animated series that's coming. So the Star Trek really planet has become a universe in the past 5 years
and
or so.
Akiva will be listening.
Hopefully. You know what? Akiva, if you're covering it, maybe you get screeners. No, that's the incentive. You got to cover shows that are new and on the air rather than ones that have ended years ago.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a break. All right, Jess, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jess.
When we come back,
Awesome job with that game, Jess.
we will be
Thanks
doing
for having me.
the mailbag with Mike Bloom right after this.
Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch. They have licensed agents available 24/7 online or over the phone.
But if it's so easy, you might start thinking everything is easy, even big wave surfing. And it's not. It's actually quite difficult.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance. And you could keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might lead you to make some questionable purchases, like a 20-foot feather boa. And do you know how hard it is to clean a 20-foot feather boa?
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver.
But when life gets a little easier, it makes you too confident, and you start calling everyone Ace. And you're better than that.
Well, Geico has a 97% customer satisfaction rating and has been saving people money for 85 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea.
All right, we are back with Mailbag 144 here with Mike Bloom to talk about ideas for the wheel. Can't believe I was today years old when I learned out that Tuvix was a real thing.
Is this now just going to be like, you know, the reverse effect that now that all these peeves have been brought up, you're just going to this is how you're going to lose listeners, is by like taking their peeves and putting them into your podcast.
I didn't mind I am today years old. Mike, do you dislike when people say I am today years old?
I did see something where someone implied that I was today years old implies like an adult baby aspect, which I guess if that's the implication, then no, I'm never going to say the thing again. But I never took it to mean that.
Yeah, I know, because I also said that I don't like anything that is people being like babies. Like, I don't get sickened when I see an adult baby, but I don't like people acting like babies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're anti-adult babies on this show.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Rob, I got a bunch of updates for you, okay?
Oh, please, update
We're in the
away.
mailbag. You're a little low, by the way.
Okay.
We're in the mailbag. We said we'd go through the wheel waiting room this week and try and put more stuff on the wheel because the wheel is famously dummy skinny right now.
Very skinny.
Should be the opposite. Should be like smart skinny.
Smart skinny.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here's a few things. I found a taker to produce the guest listener's ages. I think we should call that episode "What's Your Age Again?"
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? Is that okay?
Fine.
See, Mike likes it.
Nothing like a timely Blink 182 reference to really.
Well, we've been talking about Blink 182 a lot.
We have.
I thought so. Maybe we mentioned them
Is
recently.
that this podcast? I'm sure you're not getting it confused with one of your other podcasts. We're talking about Blink 182.
I have a lot. I know. Maybe it was in. You know what it was? It was in real life. Sorry. I usually don't have real life conversations, but I did. I guess I did have one recently.
I was gonna say, is this like the equivalent of yelling your someone else's name in bed? Is quoting something that you said on another podcast?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I try not to have real life conversations outside of people in my family because it's like stepping on podcasts. Like I have like that many words to say a week already. I don't want to say extra words, like speaking to friends, acquaintances, neighbors, things like that. So what's my age again? But the person running it was more...
Who were you talking to about Blink 182? What was that conversation?
Okay, that conversation was basically, I think it was at the O Words, we were saying, I think the younger people didn't know what the band Fish was. They'd never heard of Fish.
Okay.
And we were talking about other things that like people who had just graduated college might not know that to us were
not
ubiquitous.
The flying fish. Well, they have something in
and
common.
And I think I asked people if they knew Blink 182 and they all did know Blink 182.
Well, I should also say Blink 182 did recently make the news, though, for sadder reasons, right? Because I'm pretty sure one of the members of that band
is very sick.
Cancer.
And also one of them is like dating a Kardashian. So like they're very much relevant.
Not to be confused with a Kardashian.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
not Gold to Cod. Yeah.
But in terms of what's your age again, the person producing it was more Team Akiva than Rob and thinks they will find people who absolutely we did not know, but we should speak to them directly. They think it'll be a better podcast if we speak to them directly.
Okay.
So I think that's on the wheel. I think that's ready. It can't be this week, but I think we'd be ready to go next week already.
All right.
I think that's a good idea. What's your age again? I think that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Another idea. This is, up to you. Do you want to put
me or Mike?
I meant you, Rob, but I'd like to hear Mike's opinion on this. Mike, give us your honest opinion.
All right.
The Melissa Joan Hart podcast. We were like leaning towards putting it on. Rob and Akiva Have a Heart, where we watch a couple different episodes. What do you think about that, Rob? With a week's hindsight, I'm sure you spent nothing other than this week thinking about that. What do you think we should do?
Well, is there any I feel like that just the premise alone I feel like is okay, but I don't feel like I feel like that's more of a single than a home run.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
well, then let's not do it.
I mean, here's what I'll say about sequels in general. Like,
Is that a sequel though, Mike?
I feel like it's a spiritual sequel to the Rise
To
and
what?
Fall of JT. To the Rise and Fall of JT.
Oh, but I
It'd be
think
a
we'd be
little
more
bit different because we're
I think we'd be watching
her works,
more
but-
stuff than
Yeah, well, then
just
what
talk
I
about.
maybe I tweak it to say, when you do a holiday movie, dreidel or whatever, I think you should put her movie on there.
Which movie?
So her movie is called Holiday in Handcuffs. It's her and Mario Lopez.
Mm.
She plays a woman who kidnaps a complete stranger and pretends that he's her boyfriend so she can impress her family during the holidays. It is utterly ridiculous, and they try to make the creepiest concept as whimsical as possible with like the Hallmarky setting. It's truly deranged, and I think it could be a fun movie to talk about.
Okay.
Because I think
We do a
you're
holiday.
talking about the nadir of Melissa Joan Hart's career. That certainly is part of it.
The nadir of the career. Okay.
I just think it's just not twisted enough. I just feel like it's kind of basic, where that there's no spin on it yet. Where it's like,
Okay,
I
fine.
have to listen to that podcast.
Okay, fine. I'm not married to that podcast. Here's another one that we talked about, and we were basically ready to put on the wheel a month or two ago, and then really haven't mentioned it. It was called Robin Akiva Are Hung.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
And
you like this one, Mike?
It's I don't know. I'm full disclosure in the middle of your omnibus 5-hour Fast and the Furious podcast, and it's gonna be tough for lightning to strike twice in that regard. I think when it comes to podcast sequels, everyone complains about how there's too many reboots and sequels out there, but the fact of the matter is, if you're like, oh, we have fun with this, we can do it again. You're no better than those Hollywood studios, and oftentimes it turns out, unless you really have that creative juice, you're going to run out of gas fairly quickly on the idea. But I do think something to take away from that idea, rather than going with like another movie franchise to do that with, was this idea of like, you watch some and Akiva watches some. Like, I think I actually just listened to the part where, since Akiva watched the even number Fast and the Furious movies, Rob was essentially doing the previously on. And so I do think in that regard, the previously on hung is a fun idea. I just don't know if it'd be great in execution.
Okay, well, let me hear what Akiva's update is.
Well, I said we couldn't even do it. It would be too annoying to do it manually. We couldn't do it unless someone volunteered to cut up all the previously on hungs together.
Yes.
We got many volunteers.
What?
Yes.
Amazing.
Many.
Amazing.
And like, someone did it, and other people were like already in the middle by the time they spoke. So I believe it is already done.
Okay, so hung is cut. So that's
the hung.
Okay.
The hung is
Good
cut.
to
It's
know.
cut.
It's breast.
It's very cut.
Yes.
I hear what Mike's saying. In the world we discussed this, we had not yet done Fast and the Furious. It is somewhat similar,
yes,
but it's also different. We're not going to watch it on 3X. It's a TV show previously on instead of watching a whole movie.
So here's what I'm wondering. Where this might make it a little bit more like it, but I think it's still going to be like a fun format. Like, what could we get that cut into season 1, season 2, season 3? And then we watch all of the season 1 and come back and talk about it. Watch all of season 2 previously ons and talk about it. And then watch all of season 3 previously ons. And then what do we watch the finale?
I guess. And then watch the finale?
Yeah.
We have to watch an episode of Hung?
Listen, there's no previously on after the finale.
It's true. Yeah, I guess we'd have to watch the finale. That's a good point. I think we could do that. I even think like if we're not making someone do extra work, we could ask them to timestamp it for us and just press pause.
Yes.
Why Hung? Was it just like this idea of we want a short, quick?
Could we
prestige
binge
comedy
an entire
show?
series just by watching the previously ons? Basically, do they cut out all the fluff?
Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense with Hung, because I would think if you want to go with more like wackadoo previously ons, I'm sure you could pick other shows. Like Hung seems like a fun enough concept, but I didn't know how much chaff was on that wheat stalk. But I suppose if you're not necessarily going from girth for that perspective, I
What
think
language did Mike learn when he was growing up? Chaff was on that wheat stuff.
wish I knew. I don't know, not many cornfields in Connecticut, so.
Yeah. Mike, did you ever watch Hung?
I did not, no, because I think that was like mid-aughts. I think that was right during like my my drama, prestige TV reawakening. But when I was still,
Mike, this was on HBO. It's not even TV. This is prestige.
That's
there is
true.
no more prestige than HBO.
I don't think I watched an HBO series until, honestly, I think True Blood might have been the first HBO series that I had watched in like 2007.
Yeah.
So I while hearing Mike's critique, which I think is fair, I do think it's episode 145 of the show. We like to take chances. I think this is a fun idea. I think we should put it on the wheel.
Yeah. Okay. Rob and Akiva are hung. Let's go ahead and let's put it on the wheel.
No matter what, the SEO is going to be out of this world.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We got to fatten up the wheel. We can't be that picky.
Wheel's a little scary.
There's an idea called Who Stabbed Akiva. I don't know what that is. I don't remember discussing it.
Yeah, I believe that was at like a live show where like somebody came in and stabbed you at a live show.
Oh, right.
And
You were talking about cheaters, right?
Right.
That, like, when someone, like, as if when someone interrupted the big
and I would
event
keep
that was
the
going on.
podcast going.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that is fun, but that's for another time. And then there is fasten your seatbelts. A couple people have ideas. I have put that into production. I think people are going to be working on some sort of table read. Someone will write it. Maybe people will be editing it. Maybe we'll have a team. And when and only when we're happy with the final script, we could maybe turn that into an episode. But it will involve Rob and Akiva joining, like Rob said, Rob and Akiva joining the Fast and the Furious universe. But we have a couple ideas that I think are good.
If you want to save money on casting, make it Rob Kiva joins the Fast and the Furious team.
Why? Because our number would be too high?
Well, no, just be that. Yeah, exactly. It's like your pay rate, as Santa Claus might tell you, like they have to pay you that no matter how good you do on the film. So like they feel like you don't want to hire out for the extra actor, just combine it into one character. They do that with a lot of true stories, right? They change the genders, they change the characters.
Okay. I mean, let's not like confuse our writers too much. Like we don't need to write for Rob Kiva.
Yeah,
maybe that could be the big twist. Is I don't know, Akiva and Dominic Toretto get in some sort of weird transporter accident, and become the combination of the two.
Do I want to manifest a Rob Kiva Twitter account or no?
No, I don't think so.
You already did. In saying it, you just did, Rob.
Sometimes I feel like half of all of our followers are just parody RHAP accounts already. Most of which last like a week and then stop. Some of which have stood the test of time, but
sure.
So we have two ideas on the wheel. We've got a couple more things in motion. Also, Sasha Joseph, last week's great guest, sent me like a detailed bunch of ideas for the Rob and Akiva Go to Bollywood. We'll get to that next week.
Ooh, amazing.
We get that in the mailbag next week. Mike, did you have any ideas?
Yeah, so these aren't ideas so much so as this. That's like me, poking you as the reminder for things that were brought up previously. I'm copying other people's great ideas. I'm being a real Packlet about this. But listen, let me Jess really served this up, but let me continue to push it forward. This was brought up way back in the day. I think you have to do Australian shows are trash. / Rob and Akiva Go Down Under. There's so many cuckoo Australian shows that I think could very easily be talked about. I think Sarah Carradine is a great person to have on and talk it through. Jess talked about Round the Twist. There's also the soap opera Neighbours. There's a lot of really just out of this world Australian TV shows. I think your Canadian TV shows are trash was a seminal episode. That's where we got Scum into the mix. And so I think if you're looking to continue to expand your international waters, this is an easy way to do it.
Akiva, how do you feel about Australian TV shows are trash?
I still would need to be sold on like that the shows are gold. Like the idea itself is fine. The idea is a single. I think like the right show could turn it into a double or a triple,
I mean, these shows are absolutely wackadoo. Like Round the Twist is like a magical, mythological kid show where just strange things happen quite literally each and every day. Like I think this could be one of those very fun, you watch the episode and say, what the hell did I just watch type of shows.
Interesting. Okay. Let me think about it. Unless, Rob, you're married to it one way or the other.
No, I'll wait for Akiva to finish thinking about it.
Okay, fine. And what else, Mike?
So I think, as much as I bemoan sequels, I think you could do a podcast Power Hour too. I think, do we have anything in a sequel mechanism?
Did you like that?
Now?
I feel like I didn't get a lot of good feedback on that.
I enjoyed it personally. As someone who feels like there's way too many podcasts out there to enjoy. I really enjoyed podcasters' opinions on podcasts in a very constructive, positive manner. I think it was fun to get your different thoughts on like the styles and subject matter as well. And look, there is plenty out there for you to explore. I think the idea has legs personally, but you know, I'm just one person.
That's interesting.
I like doing that episode. I agree. I don't think it was one of the bigger hits. I like doing it a lot. It was a lot of work. We listened to like a zillion episodes. I think it was a little too soon. I think like talk to us in January 2022 and I would do it again probably.
All right, we'll set that reminder. What's going on with the variety pack?
It's a great question.
I don't know. Let me go through that this week. I could get an answer for people because I have I have a few things in files. Let me see if there's an episode there if we put everything we had in.
I think so. Because I think if you have like 4 or 5 ideas, I think that's really all you need.
Okay.
Like I don't think you need to go like full hour and a half, 2 hours. I think if the idea is just like bop, bop, bop,
variety pack would be huge. People would love it.
Okay. We could get that going.
The other idea that I sort of had, and I think it's in like a version of it is in the Wheel rating room. I feel like there's some sort of combination of like blankets, commercials are trash / Robin and Kiva need a PR firm where you could watch like nostalgic commercials for toys or other products and be like, all right, if we want to bring this back in 2021, what's the proper advertising? Akiva's a communications officer. What's the spin to give to like My Buddy, you know, to bring it into 2021?
Make it look less scary.
Yeah, that's true. Or more scary, maybe, if you want to make it into more of like a horror creature.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm all up for doing anything with commercials.
Yeah, Rob likes the commercial ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, somebody send in like links to commercials. And, you know, if we have enough good commercials, I would put that on.
Yeah, I think it could be fun because then you could combine it with this idea, right, of like, all right, this was a really odd, remember this thing? It'd be great if we brought it back, but how do we do so? Especially, again, in today's day and age, like, how do you make a TikTok about Skip It? Let's try to, or do like, you know, the Got Milk Challenge. How does that work in today's day and age?
He doesn't like the Got Milk commercials.
People are saying milk is making a comeback. Did you hear about that, Rob?
I didn't know about that, but I know you didn't have any milk.
The crates specifically.
Oh, yeah, milk
Well, the milk crates, yeah, they're making a comeback, but the almond milk and the oat milk are out, and now regular milk is coming back.
Why is almond milk and oat milk out?
I don't know. Well, they say it takes like, it's so much water. Like the whole of California just is operating around, you know, making like 8 almonds for people to put into milk. That's what they say.
Is that true, though?
That's what I hear, that it takes like 10 billion, like all the water in the universe to make 1 pound of almonds. That's what I've read.
Is there something else we can milk?
Purple Kelly?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if there's like, for like milking nuts, I feel like there's plenty other, I don't know, staples to be able to create milk out of.
You're going to create the next milk?
The next milk.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm obviously...
Does peanuts have milk? The peanuts have milk.
They have oil.
They have oil? Peanut oil milk. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to drink any milk that has the word oil in it.
Peanut oil milk. I mean, a generation ago, if I'd said almond milk, you would have said like, no one will ever buy that. And now it was all the rage. So
very popular. Yeah.
Yeah. If everyone else was doing it, you'd do it too much.
Yeah.
If everyone was drinking peanut oil milk, you'd be like, all right, who am I to say no to that?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, if you presented me with like, would you jump off a bridge? Like, yes, heartily while drinking.
I need the list. I need the list of who else is jumping, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
After eating a snake, peanut oil milk is like nothing.
Well, listen, a snake, I know what I'm getting here. Peanut oil milk, like, just it sounds like an unappetizing assemblage of words.
But it's delicious.
I don't know, throw some wheat chaff in there and you got yourself something good.
Yeah. Okay. Akiva, any listener suggestions this week?
Yeah, okay. I'll give you a listener suggestion or two that I liked. How about this one from Marky Mark. Mark writes.
Wahlberg? Oh my God.
Yeah, I think it's Mark L.
Oh.
Rob and Akiva write a children's book is his idea. Okay, this is my best idea yet.
Yeah.
Jimmy Fallon's done it. Jerry Seinfeld has done it. Madonna, Whoopi, and Barack Obama have done it. It's time Rob and Akiva wrote their own children's book. This Renap episode could bring us so much joy, and there are a few things. There's so many fun things you could do with it. You'll start by brainstorming ideas for a main character and story. Maybe it's a goldfish who's outgrowing his fish bowl. What about a silly man that can't tie his shoes? Next, you'd sit down with an author type who could take your ideas and turn them into a full-fledged story script.
We don't need an author type to write.
I know, we're the author. I know. What do you?
No, I think you might need. I think you need someone to lead you by
John
the hand.
Steinbeck to come here.
No. You have someone in the
this
community.
yarn?
You have Amy Chan. Amy Chan recently came out with a really great kids book that encourages kids of how to wear their masks and to mask up. I think she's someone that could very much be your guide through this. And you don't need much. You just need this person leading your hand of like, hey, I published a kid's book. Maybe we don't go in this direction.
And then we got to split the money. We're looking for generational wealth from this kid's book. You know, then the money's going to Amy.
But will a kid's book be funny? Like, I think anybody could write a kid's book.
Oh, okay. How about this?
RHP out of context. Anybody could write a kid's book.
I mean, take it.
I'm assuming the RHP out of context account broke when we were talking about nut milk for like 5 minutes. What about Rob and Akiva write a YA book?
Young adults.
That's a lot more words in those books. Like kids' books could be like 20 pages. Young adult, then you're up to like 120 pages, right? That's too many pages.
True, though this could be more so like you come up with a skeleton, hand it off to your writer's room, and they try to sketch something out. Because if you're talking about going funnier, this at least allows you to be a bit more grandiose with the ideas, as opposed to a kid's book where, to Rob's point, it might be more so about like fun images and a lesson at the end.
One of the guys at the O Words had written a book about the coronavirus, and like basically you should become friends with the coronavirus.
So it's from the perspective of the coronavirus?
Yeah, the coronavirus is like, it's like if you have to be nice to it.
Yeah, the
basically.
coronavirus is like, hey, let me live.
Yeah, you learn to live with it and become friends with it, and that's like how everyone succeeds. So Marky Mark says, once you have the
how
full
was
story,
that book received?
it had very good reviews on Amazon. Honestly, I checked it out.
I was going to say 1.7% of readers absolutely loved it.
No, it was people liked it. Once you have the full story put together, Marky Mark says you could release the episode. The listeners can submit their drawings for the book's illustration.
Yeah, we're not going to have Akiva do the drawings.
No, I'm sure we have tons of.
Wait a minute! Call the book "I Am a Giraffe."
I am a giraffe.
Yeah, I am sure we have tons of talented artistic listeners. He says that would be part of this endeavor. Finally, when the story and drawings are finalized, I'm guessing Akiva or one of the listeners have a connection with a publisher that can get one of our children's book published. Probably one of the listeners. I don't know any publishers.
You can self-publish on Amazon.
I mean, that's not really where the money is here. We want like Random House to like drop a 7-figure advance on us. This would be collective work.
Could we get listeners to ask their kids what the book should be about? Like let's go to our focus group. Let's ask the kids of our listeners what the book should be about, and then people write in with what their kids said the book should be about, and then we go from there and sort of workshop. Like basically, we're hacking, reverse engineering this thing. We're going to the audience. We're asking the audience, what do they want a book about? Then we're finding out, and then we're giving them that book.
I love this. This is like Song of the Summer, but with books, right? You're essentially crowdsourcing for ideas and then trying to sort of put a little bit of everything in there.
Ask your kids, what should the book be about? Like, what things should happen in the book? Like, maybe we should have a couple of questions, and then like, who should the villain be? What should happen in the end? And then basically, then we'll figure out a story to, spit that back out to the kids, make plenty of money.
I like that. All right, yeah. So start with them. When we find the perfect idea, then we'll get ready and write the book.
Well, no, I think the podcast is we're hearing all the ideas.
Yeah, I think it's you then try to create the composite story that hopefully combines like, yes, we'll put the race car in there with the dinosaur, and then they all floss at the end. That'll be the perfect kids book.
So you could send in your kids' ideas, or how about send them in audio if you think your kid is cute or funny or whatever. What's our link, Rob?
Well,
Isn't that a peeve of Rob's?
Well, what's that? But people,
kids on the podcast.
Kids on the podcast.
No, like people like, all right, today's guest is going to be my kid, and we're going to talk about like that's not why I listen to this. But so I would say when this comes up on the wheel, that's when we get this stuff. We're not going to like get it all in now.
Oh, sometimes I like to make sure we have stuff before I put it on the wheel. That's what I was saying.
I mean, I think people will ask their kids the 3 or 4 questions and then send us the answers that
okay.
week.
All right, fine. So you want to put this on the wheel? You want to give it a week?
What do you think, Mike?
I think, put it on the wheel. And if it comes up, listen, still got those vetoes. I will do my part. I will try to ask Asher. He only knows a little bit of words, so I hope you don't mind. That's probably going to be about like Mickey Mouse, bulldozer, and diaper, but I got to throw it all in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Smells.
That's good. All right. Akiva, anything else?
No, I think we could get to spinning the wheel.
All right, here we
Getting
go.
everyone home.
All right, send everybody home. All right, so let's talk about what's on the wheel right now here. So a couple things have a 1 week waiting period, but season 3, episode 7 would be a little tricky. I'm on the road. Do not have the fishbowl with me. Coin flip, the crappy movie Diaper, one of the things that Asher knows about. People's Choice, Sex and Akiva, the guest choice. Taurus season, is that back in play? Almost
I think
Libra
one more
season
week.
again.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to wait for Libra season. One more week.
Okay. Rob and Akiva Get Soapy. Rob and Akiva need a college athlete, something that was debated quite a bit on the last episode. Rob and Akiva are hung. What's My Age Again? Kids book are on the wheel, but not eligible for this next episode. Okay. Episode number 145. 145. All right. Here we go. Let me go ahead. And I don't know if you're going to be able to hear the spin, but you'll have to take my word for it. Let's go ahead and spin that wheel.
Boy, hope it's Taskmaster.
I can't hear that at all. Yeah, Taskmaster's we've been waiting a while.
Yeah.
We haven't had a game in a while.
We're recording this on the day of the great Grace Leader's birthday, so hopefully that's
Happy birthday,
that's
Grace.
the podcast gift to her.
It is going to be Sex and Akiva.
Oh!
Finally, at long last. All right, that's exciting.
Okay.
And what are we doing for Sex and Akiva? Remind me.
All right. Well, I was under the impression we are taking things of 4 and grouping them into who is the Carrie, who is the Charlotte, who is the Miranda, and who is the Samantha.
Yeah, and I think we're watching season 3, episode 7 of Sex and the City.
Okay.
All right.
Not one of the movies, correct?
Yeah, I think we were told not to watch the second one and the first one. Yeah, I think and it'll be easier to watch a show than the whole movie also.
Okay. This was before Mike Bloom was watching HBO.
Yes, and I think I yelled at the other day on one of my podcasts by my wife for mixing up Big and Aiden, thinking they were the same character. So I'm excited.
What was the context?
I can't remember.
You know I love Big, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of your favorite movies. I think it did just mention like the long lost love coming together at the end, and I mentioned like, it was finding out about a character's name, and I was like, oh yeah, so we found out when Big's name was Aiden, and my wife was
different people.
apoplectic about me mixing up those two characters. So I'm excited to get executed next week, but this is always fun.
Okay, Mike, you gave us some plugs earlier. Give us it was a tease. What else is going on for Mike Bloom?
All right, let me come out with the full list of plugs, I suppose. I mean, I mentioned the podcast that I just did, The Bloom Files with my wife, Angela Bloom, where I'm much like Akiva. I have ventured into the stars, but not with the X-Files. So I've never seen the X-Files before up until this point. She guides me through it. A show I have seen a lot is Lost. Josh Wigler and I are going down the hatch every week, as mentioned before by Akiva, and we have reached the end of season 5. We just put out a 3-hour podcast on The Incident.
Wow.
The season 5 finale. Very fun talk about a very fun episode with Josh. And then on the reality TV side of things, of course, doing the B&B with Liana Boris. We come back every once in a while to do Big Brother 23 stuff. Just had Kirsten McInnes on at the time of recording this, or will be. Again, I'm not sure how time works at this point, to talk about some of the shenanigans from the past few weeks of Big Brother, doing exit press for BB23. Survivor South Africa is going strong. Myself and Shannon Gus are covering that in its final few weeks. And look, if you're jonesing for some Survivor 41 coverage, some might be beaming in sooner rather than later. I don't know if it's the same coverage as when I put it on the transporter, but some talk might be coming your way.
Give us the sound effect, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on. I was going to say, should I use the monster sound effect from Lost because the monster's coming? But yeah, maybe you should. I would say I would never want you to sub out the beam in or the mushroom sound effect from Super Mario. But let me see if I can. I think I might have lost it now.
Oh no problem. I'll see if I should put the transporter on the. Maybe when somebody, if this was like Akiva, what about when a guest comes on, we beam them in.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Even if we have a question for someone, we could beam them
9 different Star Trek podcasts do that.
I don't know, actually. I wonder if there are a lot of Star Trek podcasts out there, but I'm not sure if they welcome in their guests and by using the beaming sound effect. I think it works even better in a non Star Trek podcast setting. Like, you guys are not really a podcast that covers anything specific, and you use Peppa Pig music, you use Super Mario Brothers music, continue to add stuff to your bag.
Okay, well, let me see what Akiva thinks.
All right, and this is
Yes.
That's what you want. So all that is going on. I talked about the Black Widow Brigade, and I'm sure a bunch of other random things here and there. But thanks so much for having Jess and I on. I know that we really love talking about Star Trek. Akiva, I hope we got your feet relatively wet for being such a Liquid affiliated man when it comes to it. And hopefully everyone, whether Star Trek fans, old or new or non-existent, enjoyed the little tutorial we prepared for you today.
I really appreciate you guys. Really have a passion for Star Trek that shines through. You guys did a great job. Brought a lot of games, did all the work. That's always exciting for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely like Star Trek more than I did an hour ago, but I don't think I'm going to watch all 1,000 episodes, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm going to stop at like 200 to 300.
Which one
you know?
sounds the best to you, Akiva?
When the two guys morphed together, that was pretty good.
Tuvix, yeah.
And was the whale swallowing? That was fake.
Yeah,
that I would watch, but that was
fake. That was what in the Bible, right?
Yes, that was from the Bible. She stole from the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to cease and desist, Jeff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope that Tuvix becomes a recurring idea of like when we combine two things together, we Tuvix it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, you know what, for next week, if there happens to be a group of 5 people that people are submitting, like try to Tuvix one of them to make it into
for
4.
Sex and the City?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. All right.
Like I did with Big and Aiden accidentally.
Yes, you Tuvix them. All right. So great job from the legend Mike Bloom here. And is Mike Bloom get a 5-timers hat yet?
Is this your 5th time, Mike, or is this your 6th time, or what?
I think this might be one of them. I don't know.
2 brand steals. You are a shark. Dad advice, right?
Dad advice never happened.
Pretty sure it did.
No, it didn't. It absolutely never happened.
Kiva?
I honestly I remember very little about this podcast. Or
Dad advice. I think you were giving dad advice to me. I don't think I was there.
Mike Bloom wasn't there.
Is this only Mike's 4th time? Will from America will know that he usually knows his answers.
Yeah, we definitely did the podcast. Mike Bloom wasn't on it. We didn't.
I was the ghost in the room.
Yes, we were talking to Mike Bloom, but it was like a How I Met Your Mother.
And so far so good. I've been using your guys' advice to a T, and everything is great. Asher's going to give material to a children's book.
Episode 10, Dad Advice Know-It-Alls.
Wow, episode 10.
Yeah. So
that wasn't with Mike.
Back in the double-digit days.
Yeah, but we were talking to Mike.
Exactly.
We were talking to Mike. Well, Mike was on episode 12. He was on the initial Brand Steel.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was the original Brand Steel. We did Game Night 1. I remember that one.
Yeah. Yep.
I think so I think this might be number 5.
Oh, wow. All right. We're going to have to do a whole mass order of hats.
Yeah.
The problem was the hat had a character that we couldn't print.
Maybe should you be doing maybe 5-timers masks?
Ooh,
face masks.
That's not a bad idea.
Mm-hmm. Or like enamel pins.
Because
I mean, much like the eponymous 5-timers club, it grows so much in length, right? Like we're now beyond it just being Paul Simon, Steve Martin. Now it's like Scarlett Johansson's in it and Melissa McCarthy, and it's like, all right, we can't, spend the gold, the latinum every week to make all these big, fun jackets. We're going to have to sort of downsize here.
Let me think about it. Someone sent me ideas for what I can get these people. Week. I have a lot of things. Well, I got nothing. I haven't been able to leave my house yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do nothing.
Should we have a
think
person for all the things that you say you're going to think about during the week, like a bot that then will remind you of like, here's your list.
I would like a reminder. If it's a bot, great. If not, if one person wants to just be the volunteer to like tweet me reminders during the week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here are the things you're supposed to remember, because some things fall through the crack. Like that Hung episode was supposed to be on the wheel a few weeks ago. We forgot about it,
Okay. All right. So, Akiva, what do you have coming up?
We did a fun NGOG last night. That was just Allie and I. We've done, I think, 18 football previews of the 32 teams on 32 fans. We're, I think, 18 up, 14 to go. We had my friend Jake on talk the Colts. We had a crazy Chester story during a Giants episode. Did you hear that, Rob? That
which one?
Where he went on a road trip.
I don't think I listened to that. I don't think I heard the Giants episode.
The Giants one, I think, just came out in the last day or two. I think it's out. It might not be out yet.
That I still stand by. Should have started with the heavy hitters and then gone to the teams that nobody cares about when you get towards the end, like right before the start of the season.
Well, now I'm just doing whoever I could get a guest for. That's what we dropped.
Right.
We had Chappelle's friend Deontay. Was very fun to talk about the Broncos. We had We power rank the best 32 coaches, best 32 quarterbacks. Some of those are up. Some of those will be up in the next few days. So that's been fun. And then Rob and Akiva Need a Podcast people should check out. Ideally, I will leave my house at some point this week, which someone said, like, you don't like leaving your house. So why are you so concerned about being in this mandatory lockdown, like quarantine? And I said, like, I don't need to leave. I just need everyone else to be able to leave. And I can be here by myself. That's really, I mean, I like to go to the store, buy my beloved Coke Zero because I'm running out. I bought like a bunch from delivered, but it's running up perilously low.
Yeah, Rob, I would say that Coke Zero is Akiva's Tetracell White as the Jem Hadar officer.
Yes.
I'm running low.
Feed it to him. Yeah.
I'd like to like go out and get, maybe go to a restaurant or something. Like not even sit there. You can't even really do that, but like just bring some food home or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. The simple things in life. You learn to appreciate them when you're locked in your house with 5 other people for a week.
All right. Well,
like privacy.
Yeah. I've been in close quarters with my family. So this was a nice diversion from that here today to talk about Rob and Akiva Get Tracked. We'll be back next time, talk about sex and Akiva. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
There's no doubt. I think I might just sell my house and quit my job. Sleep on someone's couch. Maybe I'll invest. I'll buy crypto like the rest of these dudes who always test my patience. Oh, yeah, stressed. Raspberry pink lemonade, I can taste it. No more Zoom unless we're on the freeway. Rip up your fake ideas, cause we're living in the summer of 21. Raspberry pink lemonade, I can taste it. No more Zoom unless we're on the freeway. Rip up your fake ideas, cause we're living in the summer of 21. I feel like a cicada. It's been a while and I'm out of hibernation. But now I'm vaxxed, waxed, and relaxed, ready for vacation. And fornication, all we need is some instant gratification. I think that we could all use someone special, someone who can order food. Raspberry pink lemonade, I can taste it. No more Zoom unless we're on the freeway. Rip up your fake ideas, cause we're living in the summer of 21. Raspberry pink lemonade, I can taste it. No more Zoom unless we're on the freeway. Rip up your fake ideas, cause we're living in the summer of 21.
Dance.
Raspberry pink lemonade, I can taste it. No more Zoom unless we're on the freeway. Rip up your fake ideas, cause we're living in the summer of 21. Raspberry pink lemonade, I can taste it. No more Zoom unless we're on the freeway. Rip up your fake ideas, cause we're living in the summer of 21.
Buying a home can feel like navigating uncharted waters. Redfin agents can help. They'll answer your questions with honest advice so you know exactly what you're getting into. They'll also help you tour as many homes as you want and show you what it takes to make a winning offer. With a Redfin agent on your side, you can sail straight to your dream home. Local expertise from Redfin. That's real estate done right. Tour subject to property and agent availability. Virginia Office Falls Church, VA, 844-759-7732.
Dunkin' is putting a whole new spin on pumpkin at Dunkin' with our new pumpkin cream cold brew. Smooth, bold cold brew topped with velvety pumpkin cream cold foam made with cinnamon and nutmeg spices. And there's more pumpkin for you to love, like the delicious fall classic, our pumpkin spice signature latte. Rich espresso topped with whipped cream, caramel drizzle, and cinnamon sugar. That's how we pumpkin at Dunkin'. Sip into the fall season with the $3 medium pumpkin cream cold brew or pumpkin spice signature latte. America runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply. Valid on pumpkin spice signature latte only in all cold foam cold brew.